Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Comebacker. This one ramps up the middle. Ivar, get the spin. The pick. Wow! Bivens 2-1. Peterson on the ground. The short at Alisea. Through the wickets. Turley and Weber score. This game is tied. First pitch swinging on a rope to left. That ball is back and gone. Aloy, right field, deep. And out of here. Into the bullpen, the Hiva Aloy. And the Hogs, who avoid disaster in the top half, have a 2-0 lead on his 21st of the year. Ravi leans into this one. In the air, left field. He did it again. Excellent stick there. One down. Here's Rosmarinen. Rosmarinen. Back out, jump back and jump. Score! Now Barkov with it. Handed by Henrique. Bottom for Hagee, turns, shoot, knocked down by Skinner. Puck is loose. Score!
Good morning. Welcome in. Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. What's up, DB?
How we doing?
Oh, we're doing pretty good.
Not too bad.
Not too bad.
No.
I mean, better than the Oilers are this morning.
Yeah, that fizzled in a hurry, didn't it?
It really did.
I think by the time that thing was all said and done, it was Florida's toughness and kind of their physicality. They can suffocate you. And now Shane may get what he wants since he's always yapping about dynasties. Although hockey's going to be tough.
Well, I mean, what's more amazing, what Florida did, winning 2 in a row, or what Edmonton did, losing that many in a row?
Oh, I don't know. There have been the Buffalo Bills, and Edmonton isn't quite there yet, though. So I don't know. 2 in a row. I'm not going. I mean, it's impressive.
And it's 2 in a row against the same team,
Yeah.
which hasn't been done since, 77,
Yep.
78?
You stat sheet stuffer you this morning, Shane. Not too bad. Florida's really good. I'll be curious to see how they handle the off season because they have some money issues. Would you have gone back to Skinner?
No, I mean, I said that earlier in the week. Like, I just don't trust that guy. At no point have I trusted that guy. It just always felt like something bad was about to happen.
Yeah, and then early you get down 2-0, and it's like, oh, well.
Maybe that wasn't the greatest way to go.
Yeah, it was a weird day of sports. How do you feel watching 3 College World Series games?
I felt bad for UCLA.
Do you feel like they earned better, or what do you mean?
I just mean, obviously there was no intention for them to play twice yesterday, but if you're gonna play twice, I'd almost rather play the doubleheader because the way the games were set up,
I agree with you about
the time split,
coming and then sitting and then going back to play.
Well, especially think about what time for a 10 a.m. first pitch. Think about what time they're getting up.
Yeah.
Right. You're probably getting up at 6, 7 at the latest to make sure you eat, get to the ballpark.
I don't know. We were on the phone with Ty at 8:30.
Yep.
And we heard the sirens.
So they were leaving to the stadium, or 8:15.
So they were getting there. Yeah, it was 8:15.
Yeah, so they were already ready to go to the stadium at that point, which means they're up for probably at least an hour before that.
So they're arriving at the ballpark at 8:15.
Yeah.
Right. We heard the police sirens. That means the bus is pulling up. They had to have been up for at least hour and a half.
Yeah, probably 90 minutes.
Yeah.
So you're talking 6:45, 7, which I get lots of normal people get up that early, but then you go play a baseball game. And then you really have no idea how long it's going to be before you have to play again. And it's not really long enough to get, I know some guys will go take a nap, whatever. You don't really know how long that's going to be. And you have to get back to the ballpark. And then what time did that game wrap up? 10 o'clock, 9:45? It was in the 9s.
Yeah.
So that's a really long day.
36 hours or however long it was.
18, whatever, whatever it is. That's a really long day.
Oh, you're talking about the initial, from the night before.
Yeah, from the night before, it's a full 24.
Yeah, okay.
Minimum, right? And then you've basically played 3 baseball games over a 24-hour period at that point with very kind of small split ups in between. I don't know. I had at no point going into last night's game did I think UCLA had a chance.
No, and I'm okay with that. I mean, even on a much more minuscule level, Just yesterday.
Oh yeah, with the 7-on-7.
Right, just yesterday, and we'd kind of gotten a place, and we were going to feed the kids because we played at 10:30. You're done at 10:55. We didn't play again until 1:30.
Yeah.
And it's like
Not really long enough to do anything.
Get off your feet. Let us
It's hot
know,
out there.
Let us know lettuce. Not going to sit well in your stomach. Like how to do it. And I mean, this is just 17 to 18-year-olds, right? You want to give yourself the best chance to get back out and get warmed up. But it's like, I don't know. Managing downtime, I can't tell you how critical
It's really challenging.
And we talk about it all the time. And I know, like, the kids probably thought I was crazy when they were younger. Like, we weren't the parents that were like, you run around. Like, if we had downtime, we were probably going back to the hotel. Like, we didn't run around the gym and do all that. And Caleb will tell you, like, we call him right now, and he'd be like, yeah, my dad's kind of weird. Like, he'd tell me, get off your feet, go home, even if you want to, or get to the hotel, even if you want to go back home or go back to the hotel and, like, shower, start your routine over again. Like, because that's what I would do.
That's what you do.
Right? Like, I would start my routine
You, like,
over
reset
again.
the button.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think, it's just a little bit of a code to get by. And so I think Savage didn't make a ton of excuses, but they did. And the way the game went, what I thought about, because we were watching it with our staff before we got beat in the quarters, it was.
So the first game, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm like, God, how long is this game? Coach Sikora was like, they're still only in the 7th.
Yeah.
And it was probably, I don't know, it had to be 11:30, 11:45 maybe.
Yeah.
He's like, I thought this restarted in the 5th. I was like, no, I think it's the 3rd. Like, it restarted in the or it's
Fourth,
picked up from the 3rd or the 4th.
Yeah.
So it's just a long game.
Yeah. Well,
like,
and that
even that stretch
took another 2:30.
Yeah, was long
Because the second game started late.
And so this is what I was thinking.
At
what point do you pull a center? Remember when we talked? I can't remember who he was competing against in a major last year, and it was Alcaraz in center.
Oh yeah.
And you wanted Alcaraz to lay down.
Yeah, because he was down like 5-1 or something.
Yeah,
and I was like, just knock it off.
Yeah, just
eat it.
Yeah, and he got it back to like 5-3 maybe.
5-3 or 5-4, and he still lost.
Yeah, you're like.
And I was like, now he doesn't have a shot.
Yeah,
I think it was the U.S. Open last year.
And I was like, you can't really concede in baseball, but at what point were you like, okay,
maybe I don't put my best arm out there, like try and get by without having to.
But the way the game
tax yourself,
the way the game's kind of unfolded. I mean, you talk about, and Kendeigh Rogers said it a couple of days ago, and he just said it real flat line. But I got it when he goes, that's baseball, right?
Yeah.
And then what do you hear during one of the broadcasts? I don't know, was it Monaco? Or might have been Chris Burke. He said, man, it's just a game of managing failures.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like,
yeah. He said that a couple times.
I've
over
said
the course
that
of the
for, like, that's what baseball is.
Yeah, 100%.
It just really is. And I think, the emotions, the time off sucks. I'm just telling you. It just.
And that's kind of
it's just hard to. This is hard to negotiate, I think.
That's kind of one of the things that bothered me, because we talked about when the regionals were happening, like, hey, you don't really ever do this during the regular season. Like, they've probably never done what they did yesterday ever before.
Yeah.
And they had to manage it in the College World Series. Like, that kind of sucks. And I guess it's a weather thing. Nobody planned for it to happen that way. But, like, I felt bad for them. Not that there's excuses. They got the same chance
real
as
time.
everybody
Did you get the sense that they pulled the plug early on the suspension? Or were you like.
No, I mean, I think if you looked at the forecast last night, you're just like, Monday.
Yeah.
You're probably just like, this thing's probably not clearing up. And you probably want to get those teams to bed as soon as possible so you can restart the thing in the morning. So I didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Like, not a boxing judge here. No early stoppages.
It's weird. I like kind of my big takeaway. I get the UCLA thing with kind of how the schedule broke. But the team that I felt deserved a better outcome?
Oregon State?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like that team is a lot better than
what we
going
saw.
home today.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Like, just the way their games went and how I don't know. It's just.
Honestly, though, like, I do have a hard time with kind of the way the last two innings played out. It's not like Louisville went out there and really just, like, hammered them.
Through the wickets. Yeah.
Yeah, just the way honestly, for Louisville and Oregon State. But I have a really hard time if I'm looking at Oregon State and thinking, oh, they probably should have had a better result, which for what their team is, they probably should have. But you look at them and you go, okay, they kind of shot themselves in the foot after they came back and tied it, right? Like you have the catcher's interference, you have the walk, you have the error back to the pitcher, like it's just, I have a really hard time when it's self-inflicted stuff, like mustering a lot of sympathy for the no D on that, just muster.
Yeah. Having Zoe flashbacks yesterday. Go ahead.
Mustering a lot of sympathy. Like I feel for the team and the fact that, the guys are heartbroken, their season's over, some of their careers are over. I feel for that still, but in the moment, I have a hard time saying, I think they deserve to win just because they really, Louisville's the same way. It could have gone either way with the Alisea stuff as well.
Yeah.
But like when it's that much self-inflicted, I just go, you got to kind of do better for yourself, I think.
Safe to say no more dangerous one-loss team than Arkansas?
Oh, yeah.
God, they say it's tailor-made. They only used 3 arms yesterday.
Honestly.
Root goes 5.
Yeah.
Like.
They're in great shape.
For as much as
for as many baseball games as they're going to have to play,
a single limb, yeah,
they're in great shape. And like honestly, if anybody deserved a better result, it was probably Arkansas not having to play LSU the first game.
Yeah, well, you're not always going to see.
Yeah,
Anderson.
Yeah, go do what Anderson did. Yeah, so like. If I feel bad for anybody, it's kind of Arkansas because they might be the best team in this tourney, and they just ran into a buzzsaw.
Will they be favored tonight?
Who's going? Because that's always especially in college, it's a crapshoot. I don't think Dave Van Horn knew last night when they asked him.
They are favored tonight.
Are they?
What favorite would you have made Arkansas?
Probably a small one. I don't know, like minus 120.
Minus 130.
Yeah. Just a little one.
Minus 130.
This is a pretty even matchup.
How about that?
But
lose and go home. You're a slight fave.
You still got to go get them again tomorrow if you win. Right? Like that's the rub right there. Like that's
But they're in good shape.
They are. They're in really good shape. Like you said, as good a shape as you can be, considering that you've lost a game and you're going to have to play. They're going to end up having to play, 5 games to get to the championship series?
They're at 3 now, right?
Yeah, so 4 or 5 if they win
4,
tonight.
6, 8, 12.
That's a tall task. That's basically having to navigate a regional after a loss.
Yeah, but the convenient thing, you get a complete game gem.
Yeah.
So you don't mind your rotation is still intact.
No, yeah,
for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, Root kind of had to flip-flop a couple times there, but
hey, you use your same number of starters.
You've played 3 games, but you've only used 2 starters.
You've only used 2 starters.
And only 2 bullpen guys. So you're in about the same pitching position as LSU.
Kind of hard to believe.
But you've got a deeper pitching staff than LSU.
Yeah.
Going to the start it.
Are you so 2 quick things.
Mm-hmm.
Asian White, I apologize that we did not come back to recap Harriet. So like if you're kind of new to us or the Bigfoot lady deal.
As I was new to it.
Yeah, you're brand new.
Yeah,
this
has
been going on. Like we were her first local on-air exposure.
Like media stop.
And it was hilarious. And we didn't really believe it. And so we did it for like 3 years in a row. And we learned something new each time. And we got all the peyote and so those are people those are people that like haven't heard. But I'm telling you, like that's how she is. And she was sick this year at the convention, which was just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. End of April, end of May, somewhere in there. Yeah.
A month ago, I just said weeks. My days are all sorts of
blurred. I can't believe we're at the end of June already. So
that's what my mom said yesterday. I'm like, wowzer. But so she's 100% being honest.
Yeah, that's the thing that was my, I guess, biggest takeaway.
And she had an affinity for my old partner.
Oh yeah.
He had this way of just needling,
kind of egging her on a little bit.
And I'm not sure she was kind of catching on
that he was being sarcastic.
Yeah, like I remember one time was this the first or second? This is probably the first interview, and he kept trying to find a way to incorporate her husband's first name.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, so wait a minute, Harriet. This is for Dick McFeely, right? And she's like, well, yeah, and it was just it's kind of a thing, and with the babies and I kind of just wanted to get to the camera thing because I always want to know. I just want to ask her, like, why don't you just take a picture?
Yeah, if they're up close.
Like, just put all heads to bed,
Yeah.
Like, get out the window and but she's a very nice person. She did have a falling out with her partner Ken, which is really the only question she really didn't delve into.
She can go into
so those because we have a lot of people that go to that convention.
Yeah.
And he has been notoriously absent. I think the fallout was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was kind of public.
Really?
I guess at the convention, yeah. So the museum is a little like, may or may not need to wash it on down.
Spruce that thing up a little bit.
Yeah, that thing dirty. Not wet.
That thing wet.
But yeah, we could not do that, Asian Wyatt, without a reset.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting experience for me, for sure. You
did all right.
I tried to. I was trying to ask genuine questions, even if I might
That's a great
be
question.
a little bit of a skeptic.
My mom thought was the funniest part
What's that?
when she was talking about the teepees and Native
We
Americans.
kept looking at each other.
And
Well,
she kept saying Indian, and you go, Tommy. Yeah, she thought that was funny.
I just want to clarify for people.
oh my goodness.
I don't think the subcontinent of India is known for Bigfoots the same way that apparently Nebraska is.
And Shane kept telling me, well, she wants to do this book on giants, and I was like, I need a frame of reference. But now I have a frame of.
I'll say we may have a Giants book.
Yeah, I wonder how long that'll take.
Yeah, it sounded like she was gathering a lot of skeletons.
Yeah. Weird, the lawyer in the room, TK not buying it.
Well,
Not meeting the burden of proof, TK?
Like I said yesterday, I could easily do a Giants book, so I'm all in. Because everybody around me is a Giant.
you
so.
big Eli Manning fan?
Not so much.
More of a Barry Bonds guy?
Not so much.
Yeah. Somebody was giving me a hard time about the Odom McDowell reference as opposed to Barry Bonds. I wasn't going to make up a backstory like I went to see. Like I was enamored with Bonds back then. I wasn't. I picked the cool name and the little black guy. Like
that year that you went was better than Bonds in college.
Yeah, he was incredible.
He was.
Higher
average, more homers. Like he was really, really good.
Bonds was great the next
yes.
year.
I mean, Odom McDowell won the Golden Spikes Award that year. He was the best player in college baseball.
Yeah.
So that's not an absurd
with a cool name.
Yeah.
But you can't.
And I know the year before that I got a chance to see Clemens too. Like I was all in on baseball early.
Yeah.
I wasn't really seeing football like that.
Yeah.
We had to rotate if people wanted to go because my parents had season tickets for so long for football. So by 83, I'd probably seen, I don't know, 5 or 6 Nebraska games live in my first 6-7 years.
Yeah.
We got to they let us go to a lot of scrimmages. I got the black and white photo with Roger Craig at a practice where he let me put his helmet on. And I mean, I'm this buck-toothed, raggedy-looking little kid. But I wasn't in love with football yet like I was in love with baseball, which is still the conflict.
I was going to say, you still have a little bit of a conflict between which one you like more.
Oh, yeah. And maybe it's seasonal, but it's funny because, I mean, people that know. But even like Jess the other day was, I don't know if they were listening to the show or not. She's like, you know what? Like, I don't know why we don't have you do more baseball stuff. I'm like, I don't know.
You're like, I don't know either.
I mean, whatever, but.
I mean, I've only broadcast the College World Series. No big deal.
But I just, I mean, and she's kind of transplant, right? Not familiar with the history, but I run into more people in the last handful of years that either don't know. I was going to give you a Boys in the Hood line. Don't know, don't show, don't care about what's going on in the hood. And I'm like Midtown over off Maple Village.
Really more of a menace to society guy myself.
Yeah, you don't eat that cheeseburger? Believe me, I felt like going, oh, dogs.
It seemed to me back in like early 80s that baseball was bigger than football.
Man, you're coming off such a fantastic decade in the 70s, Liquid.
Baseball was definitely bigger than it is now. I don't know if it was bigger than football. It was probably close.
We had Twib notes, and I mean, baseball.
I loved This Week in Baseball.
It seemed like everybody loved baseball back then, though.
Yeah. Well, that's how.
Baseball was way more popular than it is today in the 70s and 80s.
You know how your comic book guy, you know how Randy got started, right? He's a huge baseball card guy.
Baseball cards?
So from baseball, he got into this collections. So he collects Star Wars figures, he collected baseball cards, and it went to comic books. Like, I mean, I've known that dude his whole life. He's collected from the jump. So I think baseball, and that was in the 80s. I mean, he would walk over, we would trade. I mean, he hustled me out of all my good cards. He was getting like Mattingly rookie cards for like 50 cents. And I could never figure out how he made all his money. I'm pretty sure he was a paper route guy.
That sounds familiar.
I mean, even like his 11 or 12-year-old, it seemed like he was papered up.
Just
I'm like,
hustling.
yeah.
Yeah.
And to this day, he's still really good with money.
To this day?
Like, he's smart. Like, you got to get in his brain sometime about investments, and like he's a smart dude.
I don't know if this is accurate, but the internet tells me that football became the most popular sport in the country in like early 70s.
Yeah, the 70s was the decade was incredible.
Really good for football.
It was, you had
Steelers, Cowboys.
Yeah, it was
that's your classic.
It was the brands.
And then you had like kind of these offshoots that were fun, like the Minnesota Vikings with Tarkenton. Like,
I mean, the Raiders were always in the thick of it.
Yep.
So it was like, I don't know.
And you're coming off of an early Super Bowl era that like the name of Super Bowl I think did a lot for the national popularity of football too.
Yeah.
Like that's what, 69? Yeah.
100%.
So you're doing, I think that makes a lot of sense in terms of the timing of it. You get the Super Bowl and then all of a sudden football takes off. But
Josh, you're doing too much already. I gave Mick, we coach one of his family members. We actually coached two, who, by the way, had a really nice stunt. Little guy. He's got the sweet taper red hair. We just call him D-Lo, but we got to come up with a different nickname because that's what we called his older brother. But I'm like, hey, you need to tell Josh. Ravi doesn't quite know how to take him, so tell him to lighten up. I keep trying to vouch for Josh, but he ain't doing himself any favors.
He's not even a good piece of cheese right now. He's stinky piece of cheese.
Mick was like, okay, I'll tell him. It's like, yeah, man, get on it. But anyway, as we were watching the Caitlin Clark deal, isn't it amazing how when a sport, because we've seen this in men's athletics, when you get a not a franchise, like an iconic figure
like
in your sport, how do they get treated?
Oh, not great.
It's just
not great.
Just the general rule. How do you write the book?
Yeah.
And right now the WNBA is ill prepared.
Yeah.
It's not their fault.
Oh, they've never had this before.
It's like,
and honestly, you can't use the NBA playbook because it's just a different time now too.
And I was
like you can't go back and use the bird magic.
I wanted to get into the treatment, but I was like, man, I beat that dead horse. But we've seen this in men's sports forever.
I think we underestimate the inherent resentment that other players have when someone gets treated like this. And you know what's super funny?
We did it without stars. I mean, anybody remember Danny Ainge and Tree Rollins? I mean, Rudy Tomjanovich is still trying to figure out if his jaw was broken.
Yeah, good old Kermit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, now, real talk. I mean, Caitlin's got to act better. He's got to respond better.
Yeah.
But
she's also like 22 years old.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean?
She's got a lot. So far, it's early.
Yeah.
But so far, I got zero complaints with how Casey's handled the whole.
I agree.
I mean, she's been really, really
and
good.
I think one of the things that's important to remember here is like she didn't have the upbringing that LeBron James did. And I mean that in a positive way for LeBron. Like LeBron knew he was going to be famous at like 14, 15 years old.
Although Kate, I don't know if she knew she was going to be this good. She was pegged for a long time, though.
I agree, but I also like the best players in the WNBA have never gotten this level of attention before.
I'm with you.
You know what I mean? So it's like if you're LeBron growing up in early 2000s and you realize what path you're on, you can kind of start preparing yourself to understand, okay, this is the type of public figure I'm going to be. Whereas like Caitlin Clark or any other WNBA player for that matter has never really had that blueprint of, oh, I need to start having things buttoned up. I mean, it probably wasn't until her sophomore year at Iowa that she like blew up nationally.
Yeah.
And so that's a level of fame I don't think anyone in, honestly, most female sports have ever been prepared for outside of individual sports.
Right.
Right? Like female team sports, you've never had a more nationally popular outside of the sport figure than Caitlin Clark. I don't think.
And here's the other thing too. They have to really, and that's happening real time.
Mm-hmm.
But WNBA has to understand we have an incredible amount of talent right now.
Mm-hmm.
We have got to protect the game with getting the best of the best to help us accentuate this talent.
Mm-hmm.
Like the officiating has kind of gotten away from them this year. We've seen more dust ups in the first month of the WNBA than, for a minute.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I do. So, it's funny.
How
like,
many times you going to be on the floor and Ionescu was like the third best player?
That's
or
not
fourth.
Not very often. Which is pretty good.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
no, the talent.
The league is talented.
The talent level is really good, and I think that's where the resentment comes from. Is I think you've got players that are in the league already, and they're like, "Why? Like I'm as good as she is. I'm as good as Caitlin Clark is." Even if that's not true, they feel that way.
Yeah.
Right. And for some people at this point in their careers, it probably is true.
As you should.
No, yeah, I get that. You're a competitor. You think you not just think you're really good. You are really good. You're going to feel some kind of way if you're like, okay, why don't I get everything that she gets? I'm just as good as she is.
Okay, so here's the thing, though. I mean, if you really want to make the connection, and T-Mac is on it. When sports, we've seen this. We saw this with the Latin talent, the influx in baseball.
You see it with the NBA all the time.
But here's the
thing. Not
just
the vets, the retired guys, too.
How to treat young stars coming into the game.
Mm-hmm.
There's no real manual on it. The culture just is what it is, and it's defined by how it's always gone in the sport.
And a lot of it is hater culture.
Really?
So,
you've got really, really good players coming out of college basketball coming into the WNBA, and I get the vets are like, you guys serious right now?
Yeah.
This was on the backs of, and then you'll go down the laundry list, right?
Yeah.
With the Millers and the Swoop. I mean, they'll go super old head on you, and it's like
Cynthia Cooper.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What you know about Super Coop?
Used to watch a lot of Houston.
Oh man, good on you. So I think so as the talent, and it isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, if Juju, and this is going to be another good year, can come back from.
Well, that's the thing is
you just keep getting. I mean,
I've said this
go to
the
the tournament that Jacob and Micro Cup.
Yeah.
Like young ladies basketball talent is on the rise.
Yeah. Well, I've made this argument, and I do this with the NBA a lot, and you push back on me sometimes, which is fine. I think talent and skill-wise, just basketball in general, across men's, women's, everything, and you see it younger and younger too, because kids are getting so many reps so early, and they are there's less kids that play baseball. There's less kids that play football, especially in the last 10 years. The skill level, just the talent you're getting into basketball, and then the focus that they put on it, because again, you do have more specialization, which I don't love, but you're getting incredibly high level players really, really early.
Yeah, I don't push back on the talent. There's
push back on the product.
There's no real pushback outside of the game is played vastly different.
It is.
I've seen this, and this is not as good an analogy because I know you don't love hockey, but the NHL adjusted to the Edmonton Oilers with Messier and Curry and Gretzky. I mean, guys like Gordie Howe, not that I was watching him on television, but there were one or two or three guys. And then they had the goons to protect them. So it was let these guys get theirs. People came to see the one or two guys. In the 80s, when they transitioned and there was a lot more free skating, it was oh my gosh, we got to let these guys skate. So it was a lot more open ice skating. Then in the 90s, it was, okay, a few bigger pads. Goalies are getting a little bigger. I haven't even got to the 2000s yet, right? But the game was still played with kind of this physical level. You had to have your head on a swivel. There's the famed rivalries of the 90s with the Avalanche and the Red Wings and the physicality of it, even though it was still skilled. But it was rare if you said to yourself, oh my gosh, man, Peter Forsberg is a great two-way player.
Sure.
I remember when Mike Modano's career started to really bloom and he started to become a two-way player. I was like, oh my God, man, Mike Modano is unbelievable for the Stars. Now it's to the point where, and New Jersey was like winning cups with like this trapping style. It was
Yeah.
ugly.
Yeah.
So now what have we gone to now? We're back to a
Back to
little
the
more
free
open
skating,
ice, a
yeah.
little more free skating, a little more scoring. Because not only are the goalie pads bigger, those guys are a lot more athletic. They can do more things. Your defenseman can now handle the puck. It's not cool to be a goon.
Mm-hmm. I was like, there's not a lot of true goons left.
And I'm just using hockey fresh off
coming up
Florida.
Cup, yeah.
But the game has to move like that too. Like what happened when they wanted to free up Jordan's greatness and get away from the Jordan rules?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And what happened with defensive 3 seconds and hand checking? Like the game. So that's kind of where that's.
Well, you know where it really happened?
What do we see happen in football? And I hate it.
Yeah. Just let guys run free
illegal
across the
contact inside of 5 yards is now an automatic. Like there's some trash out there.
Yeah.
I apologize for you folks that love to see points, but this sounds dumb as a guy that played offense his whole life, but as a defensive guy, I'd like to see that's too easy.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Although I did see a great interview, big interview guy with Cooper Kupp.
Oh, okay.
Talking about the evolution of offense and how defenses are now catching up again, which is why we've seen it kind of slow down. He walked us through it. He's like, when he started with, he's like, 17, 18, 19. McVay was a cheat code.
Yeah.
He's like, nobody knew what we were doing. And then he talked about kind of this evolution of what defenses are doing now, what kind of umbrella coverages and matching and, well,
and that's why you've seen,
taking away certain concepts like the ingenuity of it all. And I was like, this is flipping fantastic, Cooper. And you already know how he talks.
I would argue that's why you've seen a return back with some of these coaches to more
the ground game,
right?
Yeah.
Like that's why I've sort of been on this running back kick the last.
It's a lot easier to remove 268-pound D tackles than it is to
to try
pass
and pass protect against him, right?
Yeah.
Because you got now all of a sudden you've got 80 to 100 pounds on this guy,
and
you're like, oh, I've got an advantage here, right? Like that's an umbrella coverage. You got a lot of guys a long way from the line of scrimmage, right? So you go, well, okay, well, I've got Saquon Barkley, or I've got Derrick Henry, or I'm John Harbaugh. I just drafted Hampton because I like my run game fits, and I just won a national championship like this, beating Ohio State in the head, playing this way. Like, I think you're like the games do sort of, as you were describing hockey and the NBA, like the games sort of do check themselves and stylistically.
Okay, what's next?
And that's sort of what it feels like. I almost feel like Florida course corrected a little bit of the free skating a little bit because they lost their first the first cup they were in this run, right?
Yeah.
And they felt like they weren't physical enough. They felt like they were a little too finesse,
need to be, a
little too free skatey, and not enough like physical toughness to go out and win a cup. What do? They go address that. They bring those guys in that can play a little bit different style. And now Edmonton, who's playing like Florida did 3 years ago, gets beat by Florida because they didn't adjust the way Florida did.
Yeah, it's so interesting, too, because I've seen, like, if you really want to go, like, recent, I remember I talked to Jerry DiNardo. This was probably, 35, 40 minutes. And we kept talking about the misuse of the term spread. And he's like, the misconception is people think when you get in the shotgun, you automatically lose a little bit of physicality. And he was lamenting over Urban Meyer and why he was ahead of the game with power spread concepts and QB running game and still doubling at the point of attack and kickouts and allowing your quarterback to be a third runner. I was like, whoa, hold on, time out. DiNardo. There was this one team in 97 that would occasionally use Amon Green as a lead blocker and run their QB with power spread.
Yeah.
We saw counter trap. We saw blast. Nebraska could run ISO out of the gun, right? So it's just interesting how the game, it does correct. So what did people try to replicate? Power spread, right?
The power spread. The zone read stuff. The zone read,
right, with Mariota and the flash and dash. Now,
well, you saw different variations of it too.
Oregon wasn't as physical.
Although I would argue.
So then we see a team like Auburn, right?
I would argue, because I was going to bring up Oregon. Early Oregon was way more physical.
Oh yeah,
like the Jeremiah Masoli Oregon was hyper physical.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Right, and then they started to go.
I remember when I wanted Masoli to come to Nebraska before he went to Oregon State.
Yeah. Well, he was the Ole Miss transfer, right?
Yeah. I'm like, man,
He spent a minute with the Nighthawks too.
that'd be all right. Big thick guy could run.
Yeah.
But then everybody was kind of over the Jamal Lord thing
Yep.
and that experience. And so to that point,
Yeah.
even with Tebow, right,
Mhm.
the 4.4 yards a carry guy,
Yeah, I mean, if you go back and watch those
you
14,
still
those
want
are-
them to be. Now you want your court. Now you want that dual action, but they still had it. Now you got to go back to being able to play catch.
Yeah.
It's just weird how the game
Well, and you brought up Auburn, right? And you know
with Cam Newton.
I was gonna say before that, my weird obsession with
Oh,
Gus Malzahn.
what's his buck? It's 14 that couldn't throw it to save his life.
Anderson?
No, quarterback.
Yeah,
He had Coates. He had Sammy Coates.
Yep,
14,
I
brother.
can see him. I always think his name is Nick Anderson.
It's Nick. It's Nick something.
Yeah, I'm doing the Orlando Magic guy.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Really?
Nick Anderson. Yeah.
Going to the foul line in the playoffs, and I felt so bad for Nick.
0 for 4, baby.
My man took his jersey and wiped his face and wanted to. I was like, oh.
You could tell he wanted to disappear.
Yeah.
But no, like Auburn was sort of this mix between like the power run schemes, but then they were a little more spread out. So they were a little less physical. But until Cam Newton showed up.
Somebody hasn't filled me in with what Nick's last name was.
Until Newton showed up, they couldn't play catch.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what kind of hacked that for them. And that's part of the reason, full disclosure, I didn't think Cam Newton was going to be able to figure it out in the NFL because he didn't go through route progressions. It was one read and then take off, right? And so I go, okay, how's that going to work in the NFL? Well, he's a physical freak of nature, the likes of which we haven't really seen, so that certainly helps. And he got better as a passer as well. But then you go all the way from, okay, you start with your Urban Meyer, then you kind of have a progression to Oregon, then you have progression to Auburn, and then all of a sudden you have these really spread teams that you go, okay, these aren't physical football teams anymore. But it took us several iterations of that to get there.
Thank you, Todd.
Nick Marshall, 100%. Yes.
Golly.
And then now you're starting to see it go back a little bit. Oh, what if we put 2 tight ends in here? What if we I don't know that we're going to see a fullback, but like H-backs are sort of this sexy new little toy that you can use to be like, oh, I can line him up anywhere. Look, I can line him up behind the quarterback. It's like, yeah, just call the fullback, bud.
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
We got beat by Columbus Lakeview yesterday. And, I tried to tell our guys, obviously, I'm familiar with their coaching and their style. And I think they've made it to like 3 or 4 straight semifinals in this.
Yeah.
Like, they're really good at this. You know what they would do?
What's that?
They would show you like an inline tight end or an H-back, motion, use run action. Because you got one carry. So we play an odd front. So we're short a backer because you can't play with 8. It's 7-on-7.
Yeah.
So there's a little vacated spot. And they would show run action. And occasionally when you can run, like it holds.
Yeah, just freeze them.
It holds our backer.
Yeah.
And I know people are like, oh, you can't run. But that's what he's coached to do. And you're not going to say, hey, don't honor it because we saw a team in crunch time hand the ball off for it was like a 12-yard gain in 7-on-7. It was a backbreaker because the team that they were playing, they gave up the first down, right? So every now and again you have to be conscious and you only get one blitz. But I say all that to say the concepts of having 2 backs in the backfield. I don't know how many times yesterday I had to say, hey, you got to treat it like a nub. And a nub set is no tight end, 2 back to a split side. And then you get motion. You have to play it a certain way.
Yeah.
Because we have to still play by our rules, right? And their concepts were so good. Like in a 30-minute game, we only had the ball 3 times on. We scored every time on offense and lost.
Yeah.
But we only had 3 possessions.
Yeah.
Right? It's hard.
Yeah.
So when I watch, and I don't even know why I said that except shout out to Lakeview for being true to who they are.
I watched them last year. They were really good.
Yeah, you remember.
Yeah, they were really good.
So anyway, I say all that to say, I think you saw the return of that. Like when you watched Ohio State, for as good as that wide receiving core was, what were you terrified of?
Physical football team.
Right. And you're like, oh,
Judkins and Henderson.
Yeah.
And Will Howard at the power.
Howard's he makes you play 11-on-11. We had a fantastic.
Who was their OC last year, though?
Oh, yeah, Chip.
Yeah.
Buffalo Chips. So I was walking with one of the coaches. He was getting ready to train some kids running track, and we were just talking about all the offenses that used to give us fits in high school. And somehow Bellevue West came up, and I've always talked about this, right? I mean,
they were harder to defend when they had mobile quarterbacks.
Huffman's he's a monster.
Yeah.
Right? Because
that's why and this is nothing against Danny Kaelin, you had an easier time with Danny Kaelin because he wasn't the running threat that some of those other guys had been.
We had to come up with 2 defenses.
Who was the guy right before Kaelin?
Glance.
Really, really good.
I don't even want to get back into that guy. I love him, so
Yeah.
it's easy for me to cheer for.
But that's the perfect example of like, hey, without the mobile element of the quarterback, where you have to account for another guy.
You want me to? I'll give you a real practical example. Not to go all down memory lane. Similar defense to what we ran last year. The last couple of times we've seen Bellevue West, we implemented a little bit of it when I was back at North. Bellevue West put together a 19 or 20 play drive on the opener against us because he would scramble and get a first down. And we panicked and we got out of it because we're like, man, this dude's.
You felt like you couldn't account for him.
Couldn't account for him.
Yeah.
But there's no way with the concepts.
Yeah.
We're playing in two shell, right? It's like.
Which is why.
And he would buy time. It's just like, this dude's going to kill us.
How many times you bring up last year?
He's one of the better players.
Lance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God, he was good.
That's one of the reasons you kept bringing up last year. Hey, like 3 times a game, I need Dylan to take off.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I'm just telling you.
Like 2-3 times a game.
I think people think I'm exaggerating, but we're even talking about it now with Warren.
He's got to take off a couple times a game.
With our guy in the backfield in the RPO game,
Braylon's got some really good guys on the outside.
Braylon's got to be able to run it a couple times. And I'm just telling you, you only have to do it a few times. Because you have to game plan for it.
Also, there's this human nature thing when you're in the moment. You ever seen a team switch to a zone in basketball? They give up a 3-pointer immediately. They automatically get out of it.
Yeah.
It's like they're not going to hit that shot every time.
So you know who's
mental...
famous for that because he was a man-to-man guy?
Who?
And he would try to sprinkle it. Coach K.
Yeah.
Hey, Coach K.
But most people don't have the stomach for it.
So it's like I can't wait to see what offenses like I do. Adam McClintock brought up a fantastic point. I knew exactly what he was getting at when he said, this sounds odd, but I almost want to swap quarterbacks with Kotelnicki.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like.
This was over text.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it just me and him or were you
No,
on
I was on there.
Okay, and I'm like,
he was killing me over
Levitt? No.
Yeah, Levitt and Dillingham.
Yeah.
But before that, you were talking about Kotelnicki versus
being with Drew Aller.
Yes.
And how Aller is kind of a guy that isn't really into the improv game. He is rhythm.
Yeah. More of a
and
traditional.
And how that I just say rhythm because now I don't know what traditional means. I know
what I mean it to
the
mean.
concept when I say it.
Yeah.
He's not going to be the improv guy, right? Not going to RPO you to death.
More scripted, like
stuff like that, right? So I'm like, man, I could see that because I think what he said, what he thought was kind of wild.
It's Kotelnicki's super creative, and Aller can't really take advantage of that creativity.
Right.
Yeah.
But I am curious to see like what Denbrock does with CJ Carr. Right. I'm really curious to see the marriage between Drew and Kotelnicki with this tandem at running back, and you do have Pena, and now you don't have Warren. I'm very curious to see how Ohio State wants to move the ball because we sleep on because they got a couple of linemen banged up. They were so physical up front on that O-line, and we kind of slept on it.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Because they lost a pair.
Yeah.
But it's like with Nebraska. Why do I think the tight end room is going to be important? Because they can be multiple. You can absolutely be multiple if your guys are going to be willing inline blockers. Because you know what's hard?
Yeah.
Is 12 personnel. Anything with one back, 2 tight ends that keeps you honest. I mean, it's a true 50-50 formation.
So I think what's really interesting with Nebraska.
And that doesn't mean they always have to line up as inline blocking guys. I'm just saying.
Well, so that's what I was just going to get to, right? One of the interesting things about Nebraska in their 12 personnel is Heinrich Harburg. That's a guy you could line up in a lot of different spots that can do a lot of different things. That I know this is an easy frame of reference for me, but it's like when the 49ers would have Kittle, Juszczyk, and Debo kind of in the same backfield.
You wonder why it was so good.
And you go, I don't know who's going to get the ball. I don't know how they're going to get the ball.
It's not who. It's the how.
How, yeah.
Are they going to power me?
Yeah.
Is this run action? You still have RPO live, and you're using Debo as a
running back.
As a running back.
Yeah.
Like
so now you have to worry about him out of the backfield as much as they had McCaffrey, who's incredible. out of the
And
backfield,
with Kittle and Juszczyk,
yeah,
you could still pin pull, you could gap,
because those guys are willing inline
or
blockers.
you could traditionally zone.
Yeah,
like people are like, oh man, look at the 49ers run concepts. Check, but look at the versatility of who's running. Yeah. Not everybody has a Juszczyk and a kid.
Yeah,
like,
but Nebraska kind of does. Not the same guys, but they have versatility at positions.
Look no further than why Lyndon Meyer was open against Illinois.
Yeah.
I mean, he's open because you game plan
exactly
personnel a certain way, right? And he hadn't even become the pass catcher yet. I mean, Nebraska knew he was going to eventually be that guy.
Yeah. But nobody
could be that guy, but not in game, whatever that was. 4 or 5, whatever. So, like, some of that stuff matters. I'm captivated because they're just these concepts now that are super copycat. These over routes and now that a lot more people are playing defense a certain way, late shows, and it's one of the things I loved about Ohio State. I think I was videoing it during the game, or was it Notre Dame? The late rotations, almost at the snap.
Yep. Yeah, I think it was Ohio State. I thought it was.
I'm like, this is tough.
Yeah.
It's not, I know people are saying, just throw the ball. It's like, yeah, I don't know. Is that quarters? Is that going to be 2?
So that's the thing is you want them to throw the ball, right? But then they're seeing what they're seeing pre-snap and making their reads and calls off of is different than what's actually presenting itself once the ball is snapped.
That's why I'm hoping, at some point, if Nebraska can go to this package where I think I just get the feel they want to run the ball more than we think they want to run the ball. I do.
I'd believe that.
I may be crazy, and it's early. What is it? It's late June, middle June, whatever it is, June.
I think, yeah.
But I think, given if they had their druthers, they could run the ball whenever they want to. I think it would please them mightily to just have 6 minutes on the clock and hold that thing for 6 minutes.
It away.
Yeah.
My only hesitation on that is I think they really, really like their quarterback and wide receiver rooms.
Yeah. I mean, the wide receiver room is going to be interesting because I still think it has to.
It's got to show it.
I think it still has to evolve a little.
Yeah.
They have some numbers, but I don't think it's like.
I don't think it's super deep. I do think they like the guys they have.
Yeah.
And I sit there and I go, okay, if you think Dylan is who you think he is and who we think he is, or who I think he is at least, I don't want to speak for anybody else. But if he's the guy that we've been talking about, taking that big leap, and every time Matt Rule's speaking somewhere publicly, he's talking about how much better Dylan Rail is than he was last year. And so you sit there and go, okay, if that's the case, if that's true, you're going to have a hard time taking the ball out of his hands very often.
Yeah. And one thing
that's my only hesitation.
They keep replaying this Caitlin Clark thing. This is interesting. And I know people laugh at her and say that she, got to handle it. And I do think she's going to kind of have to handle it a little bit better. But
she does get hammered, though.
Remember everybody made the big deal when Stewart punked LeBron? Yeah. Isaiah Stewart? No, I'm not fighting Isaiah Stewart either.
No, I don't think LeBron wants to either.
I don't think LeBron wants to fight you. The only person I think LeBron enjoys fighting is Stephen A. Smith, who, by the way, wow.
Oh, we can get to that.
Wow.
I think I might zag there on you.
Wow.
A little bit.
What do you mean? Over SAS?
Yeah.
You better not. No. Listen, now is not the time to mess with my emotions. I'm going to let you know that right now.
Which
is funny because one of our officials, we had one of the guys that I know was doing 7-on-7 yesterday. I still think he was using his stopwatch like a calendar, but that's neither here nor there. It was so bad the players started counting to 4 out loud. I'm like, you guys can't do that.
You ever seen guys do that in basketball on inbounds? They're like counting out the 5.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I used to have my guys do that from the bench.
Do you know how often I think that could be called?
Oh, constantly.
Way more
than
it is.
They really do not want to call it.
It's like when you watch football and you let the play clock go to 0 and they walk you through what the second of the whole energy of going to 1 to 0 really means in real time. And it's like,
you have to wait a full beat after it hits 0 because it's not actually on 0 yet. It's on 0.8, and then you have to,
I'm like,
You have to almost hold that ball for a full 7
I'm not
seconds
that
to get a
smart.
5-second on inbound.
No, it's
It's wild.
Yeah, I don't know, man. We got to get to take a break.
Yeah,
I suppose we better get to recruiting.
We'll get some recruiting. Well, we got Brian Christopherson coming up, so we'll have some recruiting conversations with BC Husker 24/7. 8:30, we'll talk to Andy Kendeigh, KETV.
Did we just blew through the whole first hour again?
Yeah, well, mostly, yeah.
Hey, can I? Hey, good, Scott, I'm with you. We're gonna get to that. What have we heard about Mac Markway? When that guy gets healthy,
yeah, watch out.
I've said this from the jump, and I think people think it's because I like Satterfield in the tight ends room. That's one room I do not worry about. I'll bring up tight ends every chance I get.
And you're always like, that's gonna be a good room.
And it's the only other room
besides running backs
that guys have gotten better. The guys always have gotten better.
I would make an argument for the offensive line, but there's a couple outliers.
I'm not gonna fight you over O-line, but I do think the center spot needed some evaluating at some times last year.
I would agree. With more guys in the room in more different spots, I'm going to give them a little bit of leeway.
I won't fight you over that.
We've got Brian Christopherson coming up next year on Hurrdat Sports Live. I'm Ravi, Lulla.
I'm Kenny Bell.
We're here from Hurrdat Sports. Don't worry, Metro Transit has you covered right here on the ballpark bus. Gonna run from right here down by the stadium, north of downtown, all the way up to Dodge Street, making a circle to drop you off wherever you need to go.
Oh, beautiful. So what's it cost?
It is free. It runs every 10 minutes, and it'll run almost all day until an hour after the last game. Or Kenny, if you're like me, you don't want to deal with driving downtown at all, Metro Transit has you covered there too. You can park out at Westroads for free and get a ride downtown through Orbit.
That's right. They added an extra Orbit stop at 10th and Capitol, only $1.25. Fills up after the game, quick, nice service, right back out to Westroads.
$2.50 round trip, can't beat it.
And free parking? You kidding me?
Plan your trip or track your bus at myride.ometro.com.
Or download the MyRide OMA app.
Centris Federal Credit Union, we understand that the journey of building your own business typically starts with modest beginnings. With a little help from our team of experts and small business loan offerings, you can take your vision and transform it into a more concrete reality. Centris Federal Credit Union. We are where you are.
What were the emotions for you watching that walk up by Eddie King Jr.?
Well, they were amazing. After getting the bunt down, I knew it was going to be a hard team to beat, especially with Monroe coming up, who's one of our best hitters, and then you got Eddie right behind him. That's a 1-2 punch that's really hard to beat.
How about the roller coaster of emotions throughout this game, especially in that ninth inning?
Yeah, definitely. It was a lot of roller coasters. I mean, we gave up a few runs, but we also got out of a huge momentum swing at top of the ninth with Tucker getting that strikeout, and so us getting back into it was huge.
You're a Louisville kid. How much more does this mean to you to rep the Cards?
I mean, there's a ton of pride. Both my parents went there, and so going up with the name on your chest of the city you grew up in is huge, and it's an honor I can't imagine.
Yeah, Jake Monroe told me the other day that you guys have been doing this all year in terms of comebacks. You can't count this team out. Why is this team clicking right now on all cylinders on offense and just staying so aggressive in the box?
Yeah, we're just a resilient bunch, and we got a good approach. Coach Snyder's helped us along the way, and so staying with our approach is a great thing, and keeping going and finding fastballs we can hit.
Give me that cheddar, bacon, Rico. Big bunny rolls like burritos. Give me that hot sauce, no pico. Give me that.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Century
Pat
Federal
myself
Credit
up.
Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla. My bad. I missed you. There we go. I didn't know we were doing. Make sure if you're on the roads, you do know what you're doing, keeping those eyes focused straight ahead and not getting distracted. You've got one job as a driver, is to drive. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
It's just interesting. Why are you laughing? Because
I just your interactions with some people in our chat are.
It's just the same.
It's the same old story.
Well, it's just some things. It's like when people make a conscious effort to dig in over something,
there's not a lot you can do.
Like
logic
and
reason
it's
aren't
just
gonna go
hard to
away.
rationalize with irrational. Like
Yeah.
with there's not one running back, not one, that is worse since they got to campus.
Yeah.
Not one.
Now, if you want to talk about production, individual game results, things like that, we're having a different conversation.
Not one. I'm
Yeah.
talking to development, right? Because that
From
was
the time they get here until the time they leave.
Yeah. So I mean,
and the argument against it was Dowdell, right? Because he ends up getting less playing time when Dana shows up. But do we not remember what Dowdell looked like in the spring, or when he got here before spring? Like that was
no, Game Dog. I'm not making an effort to dig in. I'm not letting you move the goalposts. The goalpost is about development, not coaching player choice.
Correct.
Can't wiggle your way out of that one.
Like that's a different thing.
Yeah.
It just is.
And somehow miraculously, even with the pared down run game and concepts, which Coach Holgerson should get a tremendous amount of credit for, somebody still had to be getting EJ ready to go on the fly.
Yeah.
Like, how is that guy still prepared to play?
Yeah. Emmett?
Yeah.
Right away. Good to go.
Oh.
Also, we act like, and I don't know if this isn't really his argument because his is different, but we act like development happens at the same rate. Like everybody can be getting better and one guy can be getting better faster and pass another guy. That's a real thing that can happen, right? It's not always one guy. It's not a zero-sum game. Not one guy goes up, the other guy goes down. That's not how it works.
I got an idea for a guy that I think is going to move to the –
Like make a move?
Like move, change rooms.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to revisit this development conversation.
Okay.
The free world is going to be floored.
I mean, what are we going to do if what are we going to do with Mekhi Nelson if he's good this year?
Yeah, I mean that's one.
But yeah, I mean,
and situation like and Mekhi's deal is going to be like getting his body prepared to play.
Yeah, because he's not huge.
No, he's and I shouldn't even say he's slight because he's yoked for his.
He doesn't have a huge frame.
He's just he's smaller in stature.
Yeah,
but that I think the running back room is going to have some moves.
Yeah,
I do. I don't foresee the depth chart as it ended in spring going to be how it ends, or
how it shakes out in the fall.
Yeah.
I do like that room. I like the tight end room. Somebody brought up Mac Markway in the chat.
Yeah, he's going to be interesting. I think so. There's two guys you're waiting on, actually three, because I think from a development standpoint, they do a few different things because Ingerson is more the traditional.
Yeah, big 6'7", your Borkature type
mover, mean guy.
Yeah.
Markway's got that versatility. You're gonna figure out how you want to use Carter Nelson as he continues to grow. Is he gonna be an inline guy? Well, you want to use him as an inline guy. You're gonna put him on the move, matchway. I'm thinking Markway, matchway. And then you've got Lindenmeyer, you've got Bonner. I mean, so you're going to be way okay. in that room. And I think you're going to have some versatility. And if you're only limited by Dana's creativity,
you're not limited at all.
You're not limited. I mean, at some point, if you get good enough command of the offense, which I think Dylan should.
Yeah. That's the thing I'm least concerned about is his command.
And your offensive line holds up. You get to play matchups.
And you can get guys in bad matchups.
Like that's where you want to get, right? You want to think players, not plays.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
Dana will find his matchups.
Players, not plays.
Let's get to one of our favorite players on the show, Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7, joining us now. BC, what's going on, bud?
Not a lot. How are you guys doing?
We're good. We're good. We saved all our recruiting juice for you.
No.
Aren't you happy? Because this is the questions that we keep getting. Ravi was already mad, and I haven't been in the greatest of moods. So I told myself today, I'm not going to contribute to his delinquency. I will be the positive one.
What'd I do?
But he's upset that folks are panicking over 2026 recruiting class already. I didn't have any tidbits for him because I said, you know what? We're going to talk to a guy that's a heck of a lot smarter than me. I'll let BC figure out if he's panicking over the 2026 class.
I'm not panicking. As you guys know, I'm pretty good at sitting on the fence on things, and this would be one where I'll just sit on that middle ground with it. I mean, I understand where there's a little bit of like, oh man, it's getting into June a decent ways, and they're ranked 74th and all that. But I also don't know if I'm looking at the rankings quite the same way this year as in past years, and part of that is I'm still kind of figuring out like how like your natural recruiting class can be complemented by sort of what you supplement it with in December with some extra pieces and how that all fits together. And so it's not as easy for me as it used to be when we just basically had the class, and that's how you judged how the roster was put together. Just a recruiting class out of high school alone, it's like, oh, if they were like 55th, you felt kind of down about it because there weren't other options to add anywhere else. So in this day and age, I'm still kind of trying to work out what the exact calculus is on like, okay, let's say you did have a recruiting class that ends up like 45th, but you add the 2 or 3 pieces at a different point that fit the puzzle really well. Well, then you're fine. So that's where I'm at with it. And there's still time to go. Obviously, they've got a big weekend ahead with 8 or 9 guys I think are coming in at this point. We'll see if that's always fluid, but I like the list. I think there's a couple from the last weekend still that visited that could be added to the commit list. So I would tell people, and it's not the popular answer, just have a little patience with it, and let's see where we are in like a couple weeks, and then we'll have a little more information, and then you go from there.
Let me ask you something, BC. How do I want to ask this without it being a leading question? Nebraska has a really young roster. Okay.
Exactly.
Between freshmen, redshirt freshmen, and however you want to classify the sophomore class in terms of rosters. How do you think that affects not only Nebraska's how they value this year's high school class or what they think they need to do with this year's high school class, but what this high school class thinks when they see the youth on the roster?
Yeah, that's not a leading question. That's a big part of like I think what's going on. I know when Rule did an interview earlier this spring and talked about recruiting in this climate, I think he used the number at that time, and maybe it shifted, like you'd like to get about 15 out of high school in each class in this day and age. So we've already dropped the number maybe from what it used to be, where, we were at one point when I started doing this, we were talking about like classes of 25 or at least 20 people. Well, it was already down to 15. And then you, I think, bring up a good point. This is a really young roster. And the last thing you want to do, first off, as a coaching staff, is force guys, just force it into when you're working to a 105 where you're like, we're going to try to make this fit, but we're not quite sure about it. Anybody that is committing or joining your class, I think especially now you have to feel really strongly like this is a guy we truly believe it can develop within this, and can do it as a guy who loves football. He's just going to commit fully toward the process of being a good player. And then I think the other part of it is, yeah, there are probably some recruits here and there that might look at it and be like, they do have a lot of young guys who really study their roster. And maybe that factors into their opinion a little bit. But I would tell people it was going to be a smaller class to begin with. We got to get a little bit more used to that. And also let's see how it plays out with these last, couple weeks of June too, because it could fill in a lot more toward sort of the whole of the pie as they want it.
We're talking with Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. BC, as you kind of look at the way this is playing out, you mentioned this a little bit, but if you're taking a smaller class, I mean, I think we're looking at like 12, somewhere in that range. I think it is probably down from the 15 even that we were talking about or whenever Coach Rule was talking about the 15 in the spring or whatever. But like if you're talking about 10, 12, 14 guys, whatever the number is, like your ceiling is already 40th or 50th in the country, just based on quantity and what other people are going to do. And historically, that speaking is kind of what I'm looking at from your guys' team rankings. So if we're not looking at to overall team rankings, because it doesn't really make sense when you're not considering quantity. And I think there is some hesitancy, at least from DB and myself, to rely too heavily on rankings when you're talking about a high 3 versus a low 4, because that can basically be insignificant in terms of the difference. How are you sort of evaluating what this class ends up being when you're looking at guys? Do you just really have to dive into the tape on like an individual basis, or how are you going about that?
Yeah, and also just like who this staff, you get a sense as the recruiting process goes along, like who the staff is really invested in or maybe has near the top of their board. And I think this is a staff, I usually give them the benefit of the doubt. You want a good example, CJ Brownell, would be that of somebody that they were in on very quickly. And then the in-state schools really turned up the heat. And of course, now he's decommitted and we'll see where he ends up.
As story goes, he may go right back to check out Florida again too, because he didn't love it the first time, but even they've circled back.
Yeah, I think some of our Florida guys think they got a good shot at him, so we'll see where that ends up. But he's a good example of this staff. Why I do give them the benefit of the doubt with evaluations. I think they've proven that they are pretty good at figuring out traits and what works for them. So to Ravi's question, I kind of like try to figure out, okay, who's near the top of their board at certain positions, and are they winning those head-to-heads for the most part, or are they right there? And so that's how I guess, and then you dive into the film, of course, and see what you like and you don't like as much as you can. I always consider myself still a layperson. I don't try to talk X's and O's over everybody because I'm not capable of it. But there's stuff on film you like with some guys and stuff you're like, I'm not quite as sure about him. But I do think this staff is very good about the groundwork part of figuring out this guy has the traits. We think that he can be a top level player. And as Rule has said, they're not going to go after somebody if they don't think that person actually has the capability down the line to be like an NFL type player. So they're not going to worry about what our rankings are on a guy or if he's rated at all. If they feel like he has the right, ingredients, that they feel like they have enough, of a spreadsheet on how they want to do it, that they're going to trust that. And I think they are pretty good at that. So I tend to give them the benefit of the doubt with those player evals. And then you see if they can win it when it gets down to 2 or 3 teams that are in the hunt.
It's interesting, BC, because I think, Nebraska's been bitten by this a ton where, Kelvin Obit, the list goes on and on, Noah Carpenter, Brownell, I mean, just run them on down, right? Where Nebraska's early, whatever happens, and, you'll get the pushback, well, Nebraska's got to land some of these guys. And I'm like, well, no bleep, right? It's like but you can't change how you do business. The only thing that you can hang around on is your process and your eval, and then hope you win enough games where at some point, if Nebraska's got 9 or 10 wins, then you probably do get a David Sanders, right? If Nebraska wins 9 games this year, and you go back to recruit CJ a year from now, he could say yes a lot quicker, or however that works. BC, don't you think Nebraska operates well within the confines of knowing that they have to win in order to close the door on some of these guys? And if they do know that, should they be deterred from trying?
No, and that's the thing is that there's time left. Like whatever this sits at the end of June, as you say, like if Nebraska has a season where they win 9 or 10 and they make that jump and they're in the conversation for like the CFP and stuff like that, they're going to end up with a solid 26 class. I'll guarantee it. Of what they want. Maybe it's smaller a little bit than we're used to because of just the framework of what we're dealing with now. But it'll be a solid class. And the biggest thing I've taken from this June also is if they can hit at a high clip with what we might consider some under the radar guys or however we're describing this 26 class, they are, I think, further along with 27 and 28 than I remember.
I will say that. I agree.
Yeah, with Nebraska being with other classes like 2 or 3 cycles down the road. And a big part of that was that first weekend. You go back to the 7v7 showcase, the Huddle Futures Forum. I mean, there's like 20 guys at that Futures Forum who are like top 75 players, if you want to talk about ratings, like in the 27 and 28 classes that are visiting Nebraska way earlier than they would, previous years. And they were really impressed by it. Like every review was a very high level review of what Nebraska has to offer. And so if you have that in those kids' brain already and you make the jump this year, I think that's a nice combination that's going to bode well for them. So much of this does come back to now. I think as we are in year 3 of Rule, like get a couple more results that you want in the win column, and I think kids are going to notice that. And I think there's also some good peer recruiting going on where they're being told like you got to check this place out. It's not exactly what you think, and once they get here, it does tend to leave an impression. So. I'm not panicked by where it's at. I am understanding of the fact that some people, this isn't like, at June when you only have 5 commits and it's not how maybe you've seen it some years, you're a little nervous, and that's fine. But I would tell people to let it play out a little bit.
Yeah, BC, I think it's interesting. Is this too myopic to think, especially as you look at the youth? Ravi's counted, I don't know how many times, of the total roster spots and the lack of seniors and juniors. It's a young roster. And if Nebraska plays well, they don't really have, they can continue to use the portal to supplement and not supplant, because that would mean that their development plan is working, as is their talent eval. If the season doesn't go the way that they want it to, then you could probably see them hitting the portal for more immediate help. Flawed at all? Or that's got to be how they do it based on how this roster's built. It just looks like they have a plan. Now they just have to put it in place.
No, you explained it really well there. And that's why, I don't sit with too big of an opinion on where the recruiting ranking is right now or that. Because your point and Ravi's point, one, it's not going to be a bigger class. Bigger classes help you in the recruiting rankings. So you just have to make sure you maximize what you get, knowing you aren't going to have the quantity, but also you can, as you say, supplement it. And that's what I was kind of trying to say with my first answer, which wasn't the most artful, is that, this could be a class where maybe it sits in the 40s or 50s. But if you really like the guys you have in a smaller class, and then you need to add just a couple pieces to it to kind of finish it off, maybe that's through the portal. I think we're still trying to figure out a little bit how to judge that, like I don't think it's as easy as just always looking at just the high school recruiting class anymore. You gotta see how it all comes together. Like maybe you like 10 guys that are out of the high school ranks, and then there's like 3 guys that really fit well that are portal guys that add to it, and you're like, okay, I like how that all came together now when I see the whole picture. That's why we're watching it's like if you go on the street and you're watching a street artist, we're just like in the beginning part. You just started, you don't know what he's doing with it yet. You have to wait till that picture is complete.
BC, do you wonder at all, like, when talking about Nebraska's approach to recruiting and things like that, obviously it seems like Nebraska has a certain way they want to go about their business, right? And they try and cater that a little bit to each guy's personality. But I don't know. I look at like the CJ Brownell situation, and I look at like David Sanders Jr. last year, or like obviously there was something there that appealed to those recruits on some level. But at the end of the day, with David Sanders, it's like, okay, Nebraska's too far from home for what I care about. And with CJ, maybe it's a far from home thing. Maybe it's an NIL thing. Like, guys' priorities are going to be different. It seems, I don't know, I'm having a hard
Nebraska,
time.
you don't want them to play the variable game?
Yeah, I don't want them to play the reactionary game.
Yeah.
Like I don't want them to, like, if we like the process, and kind of a side note here about the process, like, I do find it funny that we love the eval and the offer before everybody else on CJ Brana, but on all these other guys, then their evals must be off just because nobody else has come calling after it. Like, so I struggle with that sometimes too. But it just feels like, and I know fans are going to be more reactionary than coaches, but like it almost feels like fans want the coaches to be as reactionary as they are, and I don't totally understand that.
Well, it's a good thing that coaches aren't. You can't have that. You got to have just a consistency and a belief in your process that, you're not going to overreact just because every kid, as you mentioned, is going to have different variables as to why he decides one way or the other. Some kids want to be closer to home. Some kids want to get as far away from home as possible. I mean, we see that locally, and we see that in other states and how guys process it. I would say, like, let's just use CJ Brownell as an example. Nebraska recruited that one great. I mean, they really did. Like, and I know, they got in before most. They saw a prospect with better traits or emphasized traits that they like before others actually did that are even closer to the prospect. So you got to give a Husker staff credit for that. I think they put a good foot forward even last week when he was on the OV, and it was felt that it was enjoyed by him and there was a real shot still. You did all you can with that legwork and stuff. And sometimes it goes the other way on you, but that doesn't mean you throw your hands up, say, oh, we got to readjust. It's one kid's decision, and you wish him well, and you never know what can come back around again too, right? I mean, in this day and age, so you always want to maintain those relationships because sometimes you get a second crack at guys. So I think just using him as an example, it kind of stings that that one went against Nebraska, but that's an example, actually. He's a good example of how you want to do it, and you just keep doing it, and some of them are going to fall your way, and so that's what I think about it.
Yeah, it's just funny whether we're getting Florida State commits to come visit, or Nayland Scott's coming back around, Cooper coming back around. It's the recruiting, we're so fickle with it. We're not real happy with CJ's decision, yet we're willing to be excited about other guys that are committed elsewhere coming to take visits. At some point, we just have to understand that commitment is pretty
loose term.
It's pretty fluid, right?
Yeah, it's a.
I mean, this weekend is full of guys that are committed
other places. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, anybody who is following like CJ Brownell's recruitment and has known for like a couple months that this was like a race that was on, right? We didn't this wasn't a deal where it's like, oh, that's stunning, that he decommitted. I think he even in interviews was pretty clear, like he was talking like he wasn't committed, even though we were labeling him as that. So I guess last night it didn't jar me because like he did an interview like in March where he's like, yeah, these are my 4 or 5 final schools and Nebraska's one of them. And some people are like, hey, wait, aren't you committed to Nebraska? I was like, that's recruiting. He's this is going to play out and this is wide open still. So last night's result, it's okay to be disappointed because he's a good prospect. I think it's one guy. I think Nebraska recruited him pretty well. You take that and you go forward. And like you said, Damon, there's a bunch of guys visiting that other schools are trying to hang on to. I mean, and there was a good recruiter.
I mean, Florida's got Larry Miles. Arizona State's got Scott. Cooper's commit.
Yeah,
I mean,
Zion Robinson is a good player that popped in the other day that visiting, and I just think
it's a nice little surprise.
Yeah, they have a nice group of names here, so let's see what they do with it. I think there's a couple that are going to pop, still from last weekend, and that how it goes. There's emotions when someone leaves, and then there's going to be like a jolt, like everybody got their caffeine when someone commits, like on Thursday or Friday or something, and raises their hand, and on it goes. So that's recruiting, the ups and downs of it, I guess.
So how do you think, with all the innuendos about Dillingham, I have a hard time believing it, and I get it. There's been some overtures that ASU is not happy with when guys take visits elsewhere if they're committed, but he is also the same coach that won the country over when they were the feel-good story, talking about guys that he knew were leaving and wanted to enter the portal, but he wanted to give them every opportunity to play if they wanted to, right? Remember, that's the same coach, right?
Yeah. I mean, I like Dillingham a lot, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you're always like in a certain situation, if you have a guy and he's committed to you, you're always hoping he's not going to take those other visits. And so on a specific one, you might have that kind of take where it's like, why is that guy visiting elsewhere? But then there's another guy who's visiting your campus who's committed to another school, and you're fine with it. But I think in the case of Nayland Scott, who's supposed to visit Nebraska this weekend, as far as we know, he's had that visit to Lincoln planned for a while. I mean, so he did commit to ASU, and you kind of wondered, was that going to shut down all visits? But that doesn't always go that way, I think. And I don't mind that with a kid who had his plans for the summer in certain situations where he makes a decision, but it's also like, let me do my due diligence like everybody else around the country that's in my age group and take a couple visits just to make sure. And I think you got to respect that to some degree. I mean, they get a number of them they can take. Let a guy compare and contrast and get that in front of his eyes. And so I know this, when Nebraska gets someone on campus, if he's committed or elsewhere or not, there's a feeling like you never know what can happen, because it's, obviously they're going to see what this place has to offer with facilities and stuff like that, and it can change people's minds. So we'll see. And OVs are different than just regular visits too. I think when some of those guys get a full 2 days and they go through the nutrition stuff and they just go through all the different categories, I think that's where Nebraska does really well with the recruiting with people. It really is a team effort.
Go ahead.
So BC, this is interesting. How would you? So you and Schaaf or you and Bruns are competing for the same thing for different institutions, but you guys are extremely close. How often do you think we'll see these Florida State, Nebraska battles as Rule has to go head-to-head against a guy that he would probably tell you is as good at what he does as anybody he's ever been around, with guys like Evan Cooper? I mean, that's got to be weird, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, I would think so. It's got to be ongoing, though, too, right?
Yeah,
because
it ain't going anywhere. He's got his Florida guys down there, too, now with Simpson and Addison.
Well, I mean, and you see this with Texas Tech as well. There's that crossover between coaches where you look at players the same way, and you you're really competitive, but you also know that person evaluates in a way that you respect, and is going to see prospects maybe in a very similar line that you do. And so that it is like a fascinating sort of sidebar to all this, because you have so many coaches at FSU connected to Nebraska, and then of course in the same class right after, there are these head-to-heads that are going on. And
I mean, Coach Rule had to know that CJ is going to run into Cooper.
Yeah, it's not a surprise, and you just got to keep going with, like, this is what we have to offer here. We'll develop you. I do think it's going to be important for Nebraska in the next year or two to keep putting more people in the league. I think that's a big deal. Like, as you get into year 3, 4, 5 of Rule, like, you're going to want to see more NFL guys, and that matters to these players and stuff like that. But there's still a track record that Rule and his staff have that they can point to, even from Baylor, about how many guys they developed that got to the next level, that got second contracts. And you can put that in front of guys, say, we're doing the same thing here. We got a younger roster in some spots, but these guys are developing to be that next crop of guys that play on Sundays, and you can be that too. And you just got to stay consistent with that message. And, Florida State or whoever is probably trying to say the same thing. But, I think that Nebraska, has a lot to offer, obviously. And so that they should feel like they can be on an even playing field when it comes to going after a kid.
Seem weird to you that Brownell Witt hasn't come for an official?
A little bit, yeah. I just don't know where that one stands completely. He's going to really, it's going to be a big year for him, obviously, to show what he's got coming off the injury. And so that's another one that he's right now listed in the class, but you're kind of keeping an eye on. And so, tough deal for him. That injury, I think, was a difficult setback, and you always feel for kids when they get that sort of, like, especially in that year, right? Like that, when you're kind of like in that junior season, when you kind of have to confirm you're the player that people think they are. And obviously there's a new wide receivers coach and all that, but I am a little surprised there hasn't been a visit, but that's another one you circle and keep an eye on that one.
Do you? I say no, but don't go by me, because this is super knee jerk. I don't think there's a heightened sense of urgency for a guy like Darian Jones based on what CJ Brunau did. I think Darian Jones was going to be his own deal anyway. Are you making that correlation?
You would know better than I.
But actually, I haven't done any fact finding. It's just a fresh opinion. I'm shooting you straight.
Yeah.
And I don't. Can I just say this real quick, BC? I don't want to talk to Darian like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We just have fun, and I don't want to talk to him about recruiting. He's never asked me about recruiting. That's not my place. He's got his sphere of influence. We just talk ball and life and having fun. We don't talk about recruiting.
Yeah, I think that from what I know, I think that those guys, those Jones guys, have a good head on their shoulders, and so I don't assume anybody else's decision is going to speed up his walk more than it needs to be or whatever, and I think that's good. Like, so obviously Nebraska's right there. I know Iowa's put in a good word with them, and he's got a decision to make, but I don't see, like, yesterday's news connecting to him. I really don't. Like, it's just like it's got to feel right for him, and obviously his brother's there, and that can be a really cool thing, and sometimes guys want to do their own thing, a little different, and so I get that.
And they're definitely polar opposites. Make no mistake about that. I watched Darian spin about 6 balls off the ground yesterday, which might be equivalent to the number of touchdowns he had. And I don't think I could get Donnie to say boo to anyone. You know what I mean? Like, they're completely different people.
Yeah.
6 might actually be low. He broke out a nice little samba dance. Right. He broke out a Victor Cruz yesterday against Millard South. It was incredible.
Yeah. I haven't talked to Darian. Schaefer's talked more with Darian than I have. I talked to Donnie some when he was being recruited, and my biggest thing is to not mix up their names whenever I'm writing about one, because I always feel like I'm going to write the other guy's name accidentally. I don't think I've done it yet, but that's always my main fear.
BC, I'll let you go on this, but just a little thought exercise here for you. There's only 34 of the 129 people on Nebraska's roster that are juniors or seniors.
Wait, one more time?
34 juniors and seniors on a 129-man roster.
I know it was in the 90s.
That means that if Nebraska has the same transfer class that they had this year, and I'll even take out the specialists, be 14 people, Nebraska could not sign a single high school recruit and still be over the 105-person limit.
Yep. I'm glad you found the number, because when we
it's been bugging him since people get mad. So then he goes into prove it mode.
Yeah, because I mean, they could sign 8 guys and still be over on numbers, and if you only sign 8 guys, you're gonna have like a 60th ranked class at best, and people are gonna lose their minds like their class is ranked 60th. It's like they don't need any more guys.
You're going to see me write about this in the next day or so, and it's going to seem like I'm copying your paper. But when we started this conversation from the first question, the whole segment I was kind of thinking about, and I figured, knowing you're always like fact checking, like looking at something while we're doing it, because I'm boring that way. But I'm glad you gave the numbers, because that's the big point here. It's like this is just going to be a smaller class, and we'll see how it comes together. You want to hit at a high clip like always, but obviously it's not going to be as highly rated because you're just not going to have a large quantity. And that's why I say have some patience, because it's not like they have 5 commits right now and it's the old days where you got to get to 24, you know, like
you know what, B? It's not, you have to get the guys you want. Okay. Yes. So, and it doesn't, and I say that generally, because of course, even if it's a plan B, you need to want them. As long as you want them and don't feel compelled to take them, you're going to be okay, which is why I keep saying you have to have a sound recruiting philosophy. How it births itself in terms of results is always going to be a crapshoot. But you have to be able to have 10 toes down and get the guys you want. Because if you're loosey-goosey and you're knee-jerky and you're reactionary, it leads to panic. And that's when you get fillers and people will compare you to some former head coaches. Like, as long as you're getting the guys you want, and that may have varying degrees, you're going to be okay.
I mean, BC, you would have a better idea of this than I do, because
that makes sense.
Live in that recruiting world a little bit. But to DB's point, how many schools in the country actually get their plan A at most spots in their recruiting class?
Probably 7 to 10.
Right? Yeah. It's a pretty small number. Almost everyone else.
Even Georgia fights with guys.
That's what I mean, right? Georgia didn't get their plan A at quarterback last year because he's in Nebraska, right? So you can't sit there and tell me if you don't get their plan A, I believe CJ Brana was their plan A. That's what they wanted in that class. They might have plan A1s or A2s. They might have plan Bs or Cs. But the point is, almost no one in the country gets their plan A at most of the spots in their recruiting class. And so I really struggle with this. They're just going to fill up the class now. It's like, no, they don't have to. They have guys, if they like the guys on the roster already, which I'm led to believe they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on the roster anymore. I'm having a really hard time with getting too worked up about one cornerback decommit.
The biggest thing.
He is a good player. You could say that. I know he's a good player. He's a good player.
I'm not downgrading CJ at all. It's just this is not a sky is falling thing for me. And it seems like it is for other people.
The biggest thing to take from this whole conversation is the number you gave 1 minute ago. What, 34 juniors and seniors? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a roster that's full. They feel like they're developing guys right now, but there's a lot of guys that are, sophomore or less. It's just going to tweak your numbers. It just is. And so you take that point, then you take Damon's point. You can't just have fillers. You can't
don't
have guys
settle.
that you have to squint at to convince yourself. And we've seen that before here. And that might have been okay in a different time. I don't think it works as well now. Like with the roster numbers going the way they are, you have to really like, when you feel like you can stand on the table for a guy like this. This is what we want, and this is why we want him. And this guy, I think that the aspect that's so huge in this too is those guys that you feel just like want to saturate themselves with football. Like they love it so much. When you talk about development, you have to have that guy who wants to really truly be a sponge for the game and wasn't just the best at it in high school because he was a great athlete and he kind of likes it. It's there. I think that component is so huge right now, is the guys who want to study it and it's like their favorite thing in the world, no doubt. And they're gonna want to learn everything they can about it, and you got to find those guys.
Yeah, and on one of your company's publications on April 28th, BC, was that a long time ago? April 28th?
Yeah, in
April,
some ways,
April
yeah.
29th, April 30th, in succession. You know what the general headlines are? Current Nebraska recruiting target commits to Arizona State. You know who that guy is? That'd be Nayland Scott, right? It is June 18th, I think. And guess who's coming back to Lincoln? That wasn't even that long ago.
We're not even waiting for Williams in one area a year later.
That's why you have to be. That's why you do your due diligence and try to shoot your shot. Like you stick to the script, because you just never know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was April 30th.
Yeah, there's time. So, but yeah, people need patience. Let's see where it goes. The numbers aren't going to be as heavy. They're going to have.
It won't be sexy, that's for sure.
Yeah, I never thought the 26 class was going to be that way.
He told us in the spring they were going to be nitpicky. He all but said we're going to be nitpicky.
Yeah.
You know, it was cool because it gave him a chance to talk to navigating the times, but he said, yeah, unless you're a guy that doesn't have to believe in not wanting to go back to kids and tell them something different than when you told them, we're just going to have to continue to do our due diligence. Like he was letting us know.
You know what? If you're standing up there on early signing day with a class that's ranked 52nd, but they won 9 or so games or more, people kind of let that go, won't they? I mean, it goes back to the season. So, I mean, you got to think about the calendar and how it's going to work out, win a few more games, and people are going to, I think, kind of nod their head with a trusting thought of where it's headed, no matter where that class ends up in the rankings and all that.
That's our guy, Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7, BC. Appreciate the time as always. Good stuff.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks, BC. I bet we'd welcome in Javion Cooper with open arms.
I think we might for sure. Shane, let's take a real quick one here and get to Andy Kendeigh, our buddy from KETV. See how he's navigating the CWS this year. See if he's as fresh as the Arkansas pitching staff. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll be back. I'm Ravi Lulla.
I'm Kenny Bell.
We're here from Hurrdat Sports. Don't worry, Metro Transit has you covered right here on the ballpark bus. Gonna run from right here down by the stadium, north of downtown, all the way up to Dodge Street, making a circle to drop you off wherever you need to go.
Oh, beautiful. So what's it cost?
It is free. It runs every 10 minutes, and it'll run almost all day until an hour after the last game. Or Kenny, if you're like me, you don't want to deal with driving downtown at all, Metro Transit has you covered there too. You can park out at West Roads for free and get a ride downtown through Orbit.
That's right. They added an extra Orbit stop at 10th and Capitol. Only $1.25. Fills up after the game. Quick, nice service right back out to West Roads.
$2.50 round trip. Can't beat it.
And free parking? You kidding me?
Plan your trip or track your bus at myride.ometro.com.
Or download the MyRide OMA app.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Don't forget to come check out our summer specials, especially if you're at the CWS. Show your ticket and get a $10 bucket. We are joined now by Andy Kendeigh from KETV. What's up, AK?
Morning, boys.
How we doing?
Big day. Hey, first of all, I want to shout out my wife, who actually survived her first ever shift in the concession stands at the CWS.
Oh,
so
okay.
She had to work this last night. This is good. So she had to work the concession as part of the fundraising efforts at Millard North for their show choir or whatever. So
she's
there,
so kind. It's surprising she doesn't just have her own concession stand out of your driveway.
Well, let me tell you, I don't know, after last night's experience, it's an interesting thing to see where she goes in the future, because she was at the stand, one of the only stands in the park that has "You're Killing Me" s'mores, those s'mores things.
That's Portuguese to your boy.
It's basically s'more nachos.
Yeah.
And it's like the hottest thing. It is awesome. And they can't keep it in stock. It's one of the hottest sellers in the park, but you can only get it at certain stands. And that was the stand she was working at last night. She's like, Andy, people just kept coming up, and we had to tell them we were out of it. And I was getting these angry looks and stuff. I was like, this is what people deal with now. You have a new perspective when you go up to the concession stands and you ask for something that they don't have. So there you go. There you have it.
AK, I'm literally trying to keep from dry heaving. And I get it. I didn't feel very good to begin with, but I need a little clarity. You gave me the s'mores nacho thing. So people are intentionally consuming drizzles of warm chocolate in bulk.
Oh, yes. And then
it's 90 degrees out.
Isn't it crazy?
Oh.
It's nuts. Yeah, it is unbelievable. And from, I personally.
No cold milk. No. What are we doing?
No.
It's not even fair for me to say, because I hate chocolate, but that sounds mildly disgusting.
Well,
I mean, it's too rich, right?
Fall, yeah, right. Maybe a football game in the fall.
Or maybe in like a small dose. Like, how big are these things?
They're pretty good size.
No, they're
pretty good size.
Well, it says the guy that ate a giant Pop-Tart. Like, you probably couldn't care less.
Good. It was delicious.
Wow.
But just imagine you are passing around this like boat of s'mores to your buddies or family or friends, and they got their paws in it, and then you grab a s'more.
Oh gosh.
Oh yeah.
Lamp blows, air particles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Little microbial, clingy microbials. AK, I get it. I have a problem. I don't even like using my Blackstone on windy days, because I am not going to get some spore on my cooking surface. Like, and you know where I came by it, honestly. What's the real popular place? I told this story, Shane, remember? What's the real popular place in the fall that you go to it's hard to, Vallis. So, big carnivore guy, right?
Uh-huh.
I got one of those smoked turkey drumsticks. And I walked about 7 feet, and it looked like it was wearing pebbles. It looked like it was dipped in like rock particles. I'm like, yeah, no. I'm not eating anything like that outside. Like, that's crazy.
I do think the heat with the s'mores, the hot s'mores, is an issue.
It's making me nauseous.
To be fair, the giant Pop-Tart that I ate was in a well air-conditioned facility, so
the thing was the size of a plate, though.
Yeah, it was incredible. But I do think
was the Pop-Tart in the morning or it
was
in the evening?
There's an establishment that makes
like homemade Pop-Tarts that are giant and delicious.
Oh, I got you.
And
I need you to fix this again, please.
Yeah.
AK, I got distracted by the whatever you were talking about with the s'mores. But the self-clapping and the all right, boys, I know you. That you're trying to get yourself motivated. Like, that's your pep talk.
Yes. That's my pep talk for myself.
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
So I was gonna say, are you starting to wear down? Like, I just know you're like.
Yeah.
That's why I used to want to be a profiler, right? It's like I'm like, okay, he's having to encourage himself. He may be on a struggle bus. It's early.
100%, DB. 100%. It hit yesterday. So, the first couple days, you're pumped up, you're excited, everything, and then yesterday hit, and you're like, oh, there's 3 games. Granted, they were fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But, man, I don't know. I props and a tip of the cap to the fans that are there every day, like, early. And I'm talking early. Like, I didn't really realize the cars lining up for their tailgate spots at, like, 5, 6 in the morning so they can make sure that they get their particular spots. And they're every day. That's amazing. Like, I can do a day here and there as a fan, absolutely. And it's fantastic going all out. I did it Sunday, if anybody saw me. But, man, and so by Wednesday, it's like, woo, okay. So we got 2 more. This is why I had to give myself a pep talk. So 2 more today. But today is going to be big because we may know the bracket champion, or we may know the championship series today. We may not. We may get games tomorrow. So my wife is actually rooting for one of the undefeated teams to win, because if there's 2 games tomorrow, she has to go back and man the concession stand for the day game. So she's rooting for one of the undefeated teams to win. So that tells you everything you need to know. But I'll tell you what, after what we saw Monday afternoon, I mean, that's going to be a tough moment to top. But with the teams we have left, I'm not counting anything out, because you just never know what you're going to see on any given day. And what we saw Monday was one of the all-timers, and it was I was telling Cecilia, I'm like, dude, you've covered what, 2 of these, and you saw a performance that hasn't been done in 65 years. That's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool.
And he's got his dad here. How awesome was that?
Yeah, that was cool. He was showing him around the media center, and it's so funny because you guys have been there. The writing media gets the plush accommodations, the air conditioning up in the press box, and the electronic media, they're in a storage facility basically with fans on, making sure their equipment doesn't overheat. It's pretty awesome.
And no disrespect to Lauren, because she's incredibly easy to work with, but she probably bosses me around more, because I mean, that's just kind of the role we have with each other. But Matt, he might be the nicest person that's not named Matt, because that would belong to Lothrop too, because he was incredibly kind. But he's such a good dude. Like, that experience with your father has to be like incredible, especially given the environment, because you've done this for a while now. It just seems like there's more people. Is that just me?
No. In fact, I was just thinking about this.
I told you, I'm not crazy.
No, I don't think you're crazy.
You're the first person that's actually agreed with me. Ravi gave it Kendeigh Rogers was like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know, man. Seems
well. Attendance is rock solid, right? And then from a media standpoint, there's more media this year because of obviously LSU brings them, and Arkansas brings them, and Louisville has
Oregon State does too, man. They got a good contingent.
It's pretty amazing how many people. But going back, this is the first year, and I'm sure they've done it before, but maybe it's just chronicled more by maybe Hurrdat and whoever, because there's cameras everywhere or whatever. But how many, I guess I haven't noticed, like after teams get eliminated or whatever, how many players you see go out and just scoop dirt. Those grounds crew people, they better have more dirt, because people are scooping up the dirt and taking it with them.
Legitimately thought the same thing, AK. I was like, I mean, if you got like 7 teams taking dirt, 6 before the championship series taking dirt, I was like, they're going to have to get some of those diamond bags out there, start filling in some holes.
Exactly. I mean, the guy from UCLA yesterday, he took like a whole
a gallon baggie.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was like, listen, as somebody who worked,
like, you could have put a foot long in there, man. That's something you'd use for like lunch.
As somebody who worked field crew for a while, I was like, man, you got to fill those holes. What are we doing?
A Dixie cup, that's fine. Just a little plastic cup, that's cool. But this guy's taking a big Ziploc. I was like, wow, that's is he going on eBay?
He's gonna give it away for Christmas gifts this year.
Yeah, no question.
AK, let me ask you something. I was having this conversation with Ravi, who he picked UCLA, kind of who he felt the worst for it. for me, I said, Oregon State seems like the team that deserved a better fate, that shouldn't be going home already. Do you have a team like that you've thought about, or do you think, this is kind of going how the baseball gods design it? It's just a tough sport. It seemed like Oregon State deserved a better fate than what they got, at least to me.
You can make a case for that, but I think as of now, I think these are the 4 teams that, the Louisville Oregon State point, that's really
that was tough.
And think about the way those 2 games against each other had went. Oregon State loses a big lead, and then Louisville ties it in the opener, and then Oregon State wins it on a walk-off. You basically flipped the scenarios around yesterday, where Louisville has a lead, Oregon State comes back, and then Louisville wins on a walk-off. You could make a case that Oregon State deserved a better fate, but then again, I mean, you also can say these teams had their chances, and. If I feel bad for a team, it's UCLA because of the scenario in which they were put in. You had to get up and take on an LSU team in a suspended game to finish. It's just that's the way it goes, and I get it. And then you have to bounce back like 5 hours later and play another game at night, and that's a tough deal. Another SEC power. You lose to LSU and you say, okay, what's your reward? Well, your reward, you have to go play what's your future? Oh, you have to play Arkansas.
Yeah.
And so you wake up in the morning thinking you could be, maybe one step away from the finals, and instead you're going home scooping up bags in a Ziploc. That's what you're doing. But then again, it's not from a lack of trying from John Savage. He tried to pull every button, push every button. I don't know if it's because he was at Creighton, the home of Creighton baseball. I think he made 15 pitching changes yesterday. I mean,
channeling his inner ed service.
Yeah, it was great. Like, I think he had 8 in the first game and 7 in the second. I think the total pitching count was. So they were trying everything, every button he tried to push, and it just didn't work out for UCLA. And you start and think about UCLA too. They're the Big Ten team. Do you warm up to a Big Ten team, especially the Nebraska who beat UCLA in the championship of the Big Ten Conference Tournament? I don't know, because UCLA, you play Murray State in the opener. Everybody's rooting for Murray State, right? Mm-hmm. And then who does UCLA get in the next round? They get LSU. Everybody's rooting for LSU. I mean, UCLA had to feel like they were on an island here in Omaha, but it's going to take a little while for them to get kind of aligned with the Big Ten and the Big Ten fans to kind of warm up to them, I think.
Oh, shoot. Speaking of alignment, AK, with Ross Dellinger's latest tweet with the House settlement deal, and Coach Rule was kind of out in front of this early about a double pay period, right, and making sure that the one portal date and him going home on vacation to read the rest of the 600 pages from the tax code, right, the analogy that he gave on the House settlement. Mm-hmm. Isn't it weird? It says, like, a majority of the coaches that want the 10-day portal period, why would you want that thing in January, right? Because the Big Ten is going to be on an island because they're going to want April because it fits the academic calendar, right? Like, how big of a clash is this going to be?
Well, they're going to have to figure this out. They have to streamline it. So I do think they need to get just one. I mean, this constant cycle of free agency is a little much, don't you think? I mean, You got to get down to one window.
And I think if it was one window, I think even the disgruntled CFB fans may at least come to reconcile, right?
Right. I mean, is June an option? You're playing with, that's almost too late,
When's Nebraska's revenue cap share in? Is it ends in June, right?
I think July 1st is when the new one starts.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You kind of.
I should have known from potential job hires. You're Daphne. Right. I'm just playing.
I'm just.
So, you just wonder. You wonder where this is going, and you have to think they have to put their hands around this and get one portal session window, whatever you want to call it, because the way it is now, it's ridiculous. And you need a scorecard for every team, and the lack of, until we know what's going on in terms of, I wish there was a little more transparency in terms what player X is getting and what, player Y is getting, what the market is. You have that to a certain extent in pro football, so you at least know what the market is. This is just and it doesn't surprise me because you all knew it was coming.
Yeah.
But until we know what these guys are making to a point, you don't have to get the exact figures, but in the ballpark, I mean, everybody's just throwing darts. And for people to say this guy makes this and this guy makes that, well, the only people who really know are the people that are in it. So, I just think that for the sake of college football, they need to get one window, because until then, it's going to be the Wild West.
All right, let me get you out of this, AK. Are you surprised that so many schools, or a handful of schools, have come out with their rev sharing pie piece? Because I can't just openly see Dannon doing that.
No way. I don't think Troy Dannon will do that until.
Are you shocked that like we've seen some Oklahoma, we've seen a handful of schools, Ohio State.
Yeah. Well, and it's a great. I mean, when we're up to having whatever dinner we're having in the press box, and that's what we're talking about. Like, what gets what piece of the pie at what school? Because every school has a different pie that they're making, right?
Yep.
And how they split it up. And I think Nebraska won't. They're going to keep that close to the vest. They don't want people to know. And on top of that, okay, this is a 20.5, but what in addition can you give these athletes? Because that's the other piece. Yeah, it has to go through the clearinghouse, but that can be easily done. You know that people will, and they'll make it work for them.
They will find a way. AK?
Just ask Ravi. He's already got it.
I already have it figured out. I'm still waiting on a phone call. I would love to give – I'm serious, AK. I've got it figured out. I know how to execute it. I'm just waiting on a phone call so I can help out my hometown team here with the Nebraska Cornhuskers, help them win championships. But it's fine. I'll wait. I'll keep waiting.
You are a giver. If I know anything, you are a giver.
It is really well thought out. It's good, and it fits right in our backyard, AK. I won't be the middleman. I'll put you in contact with my man Ravi over here, and you can float the idea on one of those tremendous #1 ranked newscasts you have.
AK, I'm incredibly giving when I'm well compensated.
Shit, I just work for food. See the leverage we got here, AK?
We'll talk to you later, buddy.
You got me.
Right, boys.
We'll see, AK. You got me still trading for budgeted items. Fine.
So I'm doling out $20 at a time to you.
Man, listen. Tough out here.
Listen, still waiting on a phone call. We'll get it done. We got Mitch Sherman coming up next from The Athletic. But if you're headed down to the College World Series today, make sure. I've been down there the last couple days. Those Metro Transit buses and the Orbit bus look better and better every time. You're trying to find parking. You're like, what do I pay? Am I going to end up in like some weird parking lot I've never been to before? Or you can just take Metro Transit. Go to ometro.com to figure out your plan to get to the ballpark. It's ometro.com. We'll be back with Mitch Sherman coming up next.
If you want to meet Hurrdat Sports out here at the Baseball Village, this is the worst place to go on the Ferris wheel. But you would be able to find it because we are out at the corner next to the old mat. And you could find sunglasses, hats, T-shirts, all the good stuff. And who knows, maybe you'll even run into Kyle Byers.
Yeah, rally towels. We got a bunch of candy down there. It's awesome. Like the best time of the year is this event because you get to swing through. You get to literally see the entire team all working together from Hurrdat Sports. And we're giving away stuff.
Yeah, and what else would you rather do than come hang out with us, sweat a little bit in the humidity, and then ride the Ferris wheel, which you can tell the baseball game's going on behind us as well. Logan's behind the camera. I mean, it's a full team effort today.
Yeah, and you know what? You've got the Omaha skyline right over there. You've got the ballpark right behind us, and then literally 600 different types of food that you can buy on the way from there all the way to the ballpark. So, yeah, I mean, you literally can't get it any better than sitting down there.
At Centros Federal Credit Union, we have the tools and resources to help our members fulfill their financial goals. With a focus on building a stronger community for the next generation of leaders. Centros Federal Credit Union. We are where you are.
Howard here with Michael Braswell. LSU comes back today after a rain delay and gets the win. I want to ask you guys, this game starts last night. You have a long break last night. You wake up, you get things going. What was the mentality for this group to pick up right where you left off?
Just energy, bring energy. I mean, we playing in Baton Rouge. I mean, we've been preparing for this pretty much all season. We've had more rain delays than I think most schools in the country. So, I mean, just preach energy and, worked out for us well in the end.
In the first inning back today, you guys added a few more runs. How much confidence did that give this group?
I mean, a lot of confidence. I mean, we're a confident group overall, especially in our hitting, and it just, stay within our approach and do what we are trained to do and do what we've been doing for the whole season, and, we feel like we can win every game.
When you have a head coach and a staff of Jay Johnson, how much confidence does that give you, that he knows what it means and knows what it's like to win a national title here?
I mean, I personally think he's the best coach in college baseball, hands down. I mean, and having a coaching advantage every time we go out there is definitely gives us confidence. I'll tell you that. He's proven to be successful at this level, and especially at the when you get to Omaha. So I mean, he just instills that into us, and we kind of match his personality when it comes to just stay down, keep your head down, keep working, and give your all out there.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live. Now, gas station coffee enthusiast and Nebraska writer for The Athletic, Mitch Sherman.
It's great to see you. It's been since a cold day in the corner of Memorial Stadium.
Mitch Sherman.
I wrote that down because I'm going to use it in life.
Mitch Sherman.
It's not something that you generally hear, and it's certainly not something that you see put into action.
Mitch Sherman.
It's a lot more rare than you might think that they actually say it in the way that he says it and then go do it.
Here is Mitch Sherman.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We are joined now by Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. What's up, Mitch?
What's going on, guys? How are you?
Mitch,
a long time.
Yeah, it has. You sound like you're on the move, man. Pretty busy.
I am. I would love to be joining you on the normal video channels, but I am. I feel like I just walked out of the Arkansas locker room like 10 minutes ago. But it's been a whole night of sleep, and got up and done some stuff this morning, and I'm heading. I got to go to Lincoln and see a guy this morning, and then I'll be back at the baseball stadium for the early game.
Mitch, let me ask you something. Was it Oregon State's draw with Louisville, how their games played out? Was it UCLA and how the schedule broke with the suspended game? Is it, this is kind of how I see it. Is there a team out there you feel like had earned better than going home?
Oh, I mean, everybody, hey, if you have a suspended game, then they've all got to, both teams are dealing with the same thing. I think we ended up the Oregon State Louisville thing. I mean, they split 2 games. They both came down to the 9th inning and were walk-off situations. I felt like those 2 teams were really evenly matched, and so you get one that goes home. Obviously, Louisville won the game that it didn't play against Oregon State. So Louisville's a good story, and Dan McDonald, like, it goes under the radar. I think the job that Louisville does, because it's not the big SEC name, but they're in a great conference in their own right. That's probably the one that to me is not getting like the attention that they deserve. And then Oregon State on the flip side of that is the team that I think played well enough in Omaha and did so much during the regular season that just defied the odds. That it would have been a cool story to see the Beavers in the last four standing.
Mitch, so you've kind of got this. I mean, obviously you coach at the youth level, and some of those tournament schedules are pretty goofy sometimes with downtime and how you manage that. I just sat there last night as I'm watching UCLA Arkansas, and I go, being UCLA yesterday would have been a nightmare because you play the night before, get suspended. You have to get up probably 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning for a 10 a.m. resume.
You're already a West Coaster.
Yeah, you're already on West Coast time, so that's, I don't know if you've adjusted yet, but that's, 4:30, 5 o'clock.
It's nature of the beast.
Body clock, right? And then you win, which is great, but then you've got to sit around for a few hours and then play again. Probably not enough time to get any real rest in. Like, I don't know. I just watched that game yesterday, and I go, I don't think UCLA has a chance. Like, I think you're right. I think we ended up with the four best teams, but I was kind of bummed out how it played out for UCLA, and I don't care about UCLA at all. I just watching that, I was like, that would have been a nightmare experience.
He's not telling the truth. He was lamenting over those stirrups for 48 hours.
Listen, I like the baby blue and gold. I really do, but the stirrups I could take or leave.
Yeah, stirrups are a lost art in baseball, and I think that's probably
for the best.
A good thing now. Yeah, I remember wearing them when I was a kid. And how much
I was not a pant knee guy. I was a pant shoe top guy. So I'm right there with you. And you only wanted a little bit of the straight part of the stirrup showing. That's it.
Yeah,
if
the
that.
curved part. Yeah, right. No, they're not even like that. I mean, they're now it seems like it's all or nothing with the stirrups. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Ravi, about UCLA and how that was a tough deal for them to resume that game, and LSU gets a good situation there because they win, and then they get to take the rest of the day off, and UCLA has to. But I will say this, like, it's not that hard. Baseball is a sport where you can come back in a few hours and play. Even teams at the major league level occasionally play doubleheaders, and those guys don't have it rough. Like, they're not sitting out in the heat, like under the trees at a park, like trying to find like the last Gatorade to suck down to stay warm. Like, they're going back to their nice hotel.
That sounds like a really specific scenario, Mitch.
Sounds like a guy that's put up a tent or two.
I get it. Like, Arkansas had an edge there because they didn't play earlier that day, but it's baseball, and that's kind of the way it goes. And teams at every level have had to deal with that kind of thing and play doubleheaders and play a lot of innings in a day. And UCLA is known for its pitching. So if anything is going to really hurt you there, it's because your staff gets tired, and it's supposed to be a strength for UCLA. So I don't think UCLA should go home or is going home and saying, man, we got the short end of the stick on that thing because we had to come back and play a night game after finishing up in the morning. Nah, I mean, they were well rested. They're okay. They can handle it.
Mitch, let me change gears here for you on your way down to Lincoln. I'll start here, and I'm going to get to the specifics of the settlement and what Ross Dellinger just put out about an hour ago, which I'll get to that. Let me start with, are you a little surprised, not so much, that you've seen a few schools put out kind of the rev share pie or diagram, if you will, knowing there's probably not a snowball's chance in heck you'd ever get that from our current athletic director? Are you encouraged or shocked at some of the transparency?
I think that some schools probably understand, if they're public universities, that it's going to get out anyway. So why not get ahead of it and control the story, the narrative? I think ultimately in Nebraska, like, it's going to be something that they disclosed. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and all of this just continues to be done somehow in the darkness. But you get detailed financial reports from these athletic departments that they're required to put, and they all do. All the public schools put them out. So is there going to be a way down the road where rev share will not be disclosed, where it won't be a part of that? I'm not sure I see the legal path for that to happen. And I'm not talking about like player salary data. I just mean the breakdown, which I think is what you're referring to, of dollar figures that go to each sport. So no, I'm not shocked that like it's out there for some schools. And even if it's not being done because they know it's going to have to be disclosed anyway, they know that it could and probably will in some cases get leaked out. There's way more confidential type information and numbers that become very much known by the public than the breakdown of, hey, 14 million to football, 4 million to basketball. It's not like it's that controversial, and I think in a few years it'll pretty much be known for Nebraska, and I wouldn't even say a few years, like in a year. It'll be known for Nebraska and all of the major institutions. They're all dealing with the same amount of money on rev share. It's just, how do you break it down? And that I don't feel like it's that, like, it needs to be that secretive.
And the least surprising news, well, I'll let you expound on which one your answer is. Are you more surprised that conference commissioners are going to actually go back to the drawing board with the playoff format, or the fact that the conferences aren't going to be able to probably sit down and agree on what the portal window date should actually be?
I'm not surprised on either one of them. Is this the latest news that you're referring to?
Yeah.
With,
so and Coach
calendar?
Rule alluded to it, right, with their fiscal calendar and not wanting double payments, and when their fiscal calendars start in the Big Ten, and then of course we're trying to get all these people to the party in the playoffs, and we don't even know if everybody has to dress the same. Like both of them are equally as frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can just expect upheaval, and this fall's continued upheaval. It's already happened, of course, and until we're in a period of musical chairs right now where everyone's standing up and walking around the circle, and until most of the major players are in their seats, whether it comes to the calendar, and I saw Ross's story yesterday about how changes are to come on the college football calendar. And that one really raised my eyebrows because, a lot of people have been talking about this, like at the media level, a lot of people have been talking about this for many months. And
well, you and I were talking about this last October.
Yeah, right. I mean, and even before that, I think the conversations were happening. You could see what was coming in the new era of college football. And it was like, hey, you can't have the signing day in December, and you can't have the portal window here. And you might want to look at like this kind of a change with spring football. And it's like, oh, here we are in the middle of June. And now, lo and behold, the leaders of these conferences are going to sit down, or, some new committee is going to be created, which is going to include leaders from the conferences to sit down and like hash this all out. So it's all like all of the balls are up in the air right now on those topics. And then on the things you mentioned that involve the playoff format and the transfer portal window, like there's going to have to be some kind of a great compromise, and we're a ways away from that all coming together. So I'm not like more surprised or less surprised about one of these topics being out there and being undetermined, or like now like being like the source of a new debate. Like it's all open for debate. It's all probably going to change yet again. And, we just are going to have to be observers and try to be smart about figuring out like what's most or less likely to happen. No, the SEC, neither the SEC nor the Big Ten are going to entirely get their way on any of this. And until they figure that out, like they're not going to come to an agreement.
So, Mitch, I'm glad you brought that up, because it seems like publicly the comments between whether it's coaches from the SEC and Big Ten or representatives from institutions or whatever it may be has become a little bit more, I don't know if contentious is the right word, but they can't agree on the number of conference games. They can't agree on when they want the portal date. It seems like there's some disagreement on what they want the playoff format to be. Like, how much do you think they understand how much they need each other versus each of them thinks that they're the big dog and can do it on their own?
Yeah, there's some of both of that. I think they do. I mean, if you're talking to Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti, I think that they do understand that. But they want to have they're all going to have to come up and rank their priorities. And then maybe they can do a better job of coming together and on a compromise. Anytime you talk to somebody from the SEC about the SEC, you're going to get that vibe that we shouldn't have to settle because we drive the bus and we've got the best teams, top to bottom, and the best this and the most passionate fans. And the Big Ten is less out front about that. The Big Ten doesn't. The Big Ten teams in the conference, I think, it's not out there saying that as much, but the league and its members feel just as strongly. They just convey it in a different way. And now the Big Ten can point to the fact, as we go into this important period of negotiations, and we're already in it, but we're deep into it, the Big Ten can point to the fact that it's got the last 2 national champions, which is something that it hasn't been able to say for a long time. That's been a chip for the SEC to play. So that makes it more interesting. I think if you're having this conversation 3-4 years ago, the SEC probably has more leverage than it does today. It still has a lot of leverage, don't get me wrong. But the Big Ten, with the $1 billion TV contract and 2 national champions in the last 2 college football playoffs, it's also a force, and I think everybody realizes that.
And they're good. The perception of their top level teams are on an upward trajectory, which you can't say across the board with your historically top tier teams in the SEC too. Like if you're looking at trying to gauge it going forward.
Bama, you think is on a downward trajectory. Yeah. LSU, you're not really sure what they're doing. Georgia, you probably think they're on at least plateau.
And they're their own benchmark, so it has to be lower than what it has been. But
Florida's not what they were. Yeah. Whereas Ohio State, you feel really good about. Penn State, you feel really good about.
Ohio
Michigan,
State, you feel good about.
You feel like you're going back up. Oregon, you feel really good about.
Yeah, but Mitch, let me ask you something. You said rank the level of importance in terms of being able to come to a consensus on where we need to start. You think that's why Chun was so animate about having some sort of resolution by July 1 because of when the fiscal calendar starts for the Big Ten? Like they're dead set on getting this date figured out before July 1st.
Yeah, I mean, we've been sitting around and waiting for things for so long, without.
That's the AD at Washington, by the way, you guys.
Yeah, right. Without urgency, formerly Washington State, right?
Correct.
Am I correct on that? Yeah. Okay, I know who you're talking about. Replace Troy Danner. Yeah, I mean, we've been. If I'm in his seat or the seat of any of these ADs or conference commissioners, that's probably going to be my talking point. That's probably going to be something that I want to get out there. There's urgency. The revenue sharing payments start on July 1st. This is the new era of college sports that begins in 2 weeks. So I don't think they're going to have this all hashed out in 2 weeks. I think that's a pipe dream. But you have to. I think you want to say that, and you want to start there, and maybe they can figure something out. At least maybe they can figure out how they're going to figure it out by July 1st, and have a process in place, agree on something at least when it comes to these topics, and then you go from there. We're at the 11th hour on the start of the new era, and it's past the point of being able to just let it happen. That's what we did for so long. That's what college sports did for so long with the House case.
Mm-hmm.
And it dragged out, and we thought it was going to be over, in the winter, and then we thought it was going to be over in March, and then in April, and finally it comes down in June. It's thing came out, and all the rules are changing, and you're only 3.5 weeks away from the start date. So it's time to be done with the slow plotting, waiting around, and just it'll all work. No, you need to set some deadlines. And if you don't hit the July 1st deadline, which I don't think they will, to figure everything out, then at least it's like at least there's some urgency in the room.
Mitch, go ahead.
So, that's not very selfish, or that's kind of selfish of me.
No, you're good.
Mitch, surprised that kind of publicly there's the sentiment from SEC coaches that aren't supporting the 4 auto qualifiers. I hate to harp on the AQs, but it's been a thorn in my side we're going to go on 6 years now. That even the SEC can't figure out the whole AQ thing on whether they like it or not.
Yeah. Not so much surprised because that was kind of a Lane Kiffin thing, right? And he started it and just said, hey, why not just put the best 16 teams in?
At the time, though, he was kind of and I was like, I'm kind of on the Lane train here. Like, but I get how people, because my partner was like, okay, that's all fine and good, but we do need some guardrails so we get a little less subjectivity.
Yeah, I mean, you assume that you're conference champs there, and I think it was partly what he said. Like, you're not going to have to worry about the AQs because if you just take the 16 best teams, you're going to have the conference champs in there. So I get that, but the conference champs, there should be an automatic. There should be some reward for winning a conference championship. That's imagine a scenario where like the Big 12 champ isn't in the 16-team playoff. That's probably not good. I'm not. No, I mean, I think people are just throwing stuff out there, and Lane is a guy where if there's not if you don't have a consensus, he's going to have an opinion. He has an opinion on just about everything, which is part of what makes him appealing. Part of what makes him compelling and like such a polarizing figure, and that's what he wants to be. Like he wants to be to be visible. Wants people to be talking about him. That's not for any like ulterior motive. It's just like that's who he is. That's why he's climbed the ladder. So yeah, I'm not surprised that like he threw something out there that was a little bit different than what everybody else was talking about. But I mean, I think
I'm down. I'm down on auto qualifiers too, though. Not until we have uniformity. I've never liked AQs.
Yeah, we're gonna end up with some version of one of those scenarios that are the two that are seemingly backed most. One by the SEC, which is like the 5 plus 11, and then one by the other one by the Big Ten, which has got all of the more auto qualifiers, 4 plus 4 plus whatever mess comes after that. One of those, some version of one of those two will ultimately be the thing.
Mitch, as we sit here and we talk about guardrails, uniformity, and auto qualifiers, is there a sticking point for you? Because I know that there is for DB about the 8 versus 9 conference games. If you're looking at auto qualifiers, because my concern is if we don't put numbers on it, then at some point somebody's going to argue that a 3-loss SEC team that didn't play in their conference championship is better than a 2-loss Big 12 or ACC conference champion. And I'm going to be sitting here pulling my hair out that because we just decided the SEC or the Big Ten or whoever's better than these other two conferences, that they're going to get more teams in than they should. And without the guardrails of auto qualifiers, I don't feel comfortable enough with.
Well, the committee hasn't shown you anything to say you're wrong.
Yes, the committee hasn't.
Not up to this point.
Hasn't given me enough evidence to feel like I can trust that decision-making process outside of putting guardrails on it. Am I crazy?
Who are you,
paranoid?
Ravi, Joel Klatt? What? Jeez.
Like, am I unreasonably paranoid, or is that something that concerns you as well?
Yeah, I don't know what real argument other than we just want a situation that favors us. I don't really know what argument outside of that exists for having an uneven number of conference games between any of the power leagues.
Mm-hmm.
But in this discussion, we're mainly talking about the Big Ten and the SEC. I mean, they've got to be on the same page before you can go. To me, that has to be the first thing I heard Brett Bielema say something like that. It's got to be the first thing that comes into harmony before you can even move on to the conversation about how the playoff structure is going to be formatted. So I think that's going to be at the heart of a compromise that ultimately comes out of it. They have to be on the same page. You can't have a situation like, imagine in pro football, if you had a situation where like the AFC played a different kind of schedule than the NFC.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
that was mine.
I mean, you did different games against conference or division teams. Like, no, it has to all be the same if you're all gearing for the same thing in the postseason. So yeah, to me that's totally reasonable to be paranoid about that and think like they got to figure this out before they figure the other stuff out.
All right, Mitch, I've asked this question to everybody the last 2 months because just the degree of difficulty of what we're talking about. What do you think, or maybe you already have started to, or maybe it's winning, I don't know. What do you think Nebraska has to pull off to get for Coach Rule and Troy Dannon and this athletic department to get some kudos over how malleable and flexible they've been in kind of managing a multi-million dollar business with almost zero leadership? I mean, are you not impressed by the way Nebraska's handled?
You mean zero leadership from like the NCAA?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry, I should have clarified. Like, it's incredible how they can function at at an even remotely efficient level without complaining along the way the whole time, and they don't seem to.
No, they're both.
I mean, we get a tax code joke, right?
Yeah, they're very effective communicators, and that's a lot of it because that's how. That's maybe a small part of it, but that's how it looks the way that it does. Where when you hear Matt Rule talk about it and Troy Dannon talk about what's going on in college football, you get the impression that things are going about as smoothly as they possibly could at Nebraska, considering the chaos that exists at the NCAA level or the level of I know what you're saying, like the leadership level. It's not even the NCAA so much anymore. Like there's this new CSC, and then there's whatever the committee that's going to determine the schedule, and
I mean, you just changed your mind from a meeting 2 days ago. I mean,
right? They do a good job. It appears that they do a good job of practicing what they preach, and what they preach is we're going to focus on the things that we can control. I mean, that sounds like a cliche. It's like something you'd hear at a Tuesday after practice when a player has an ankle sprain. But that can apply. That same like mantra can apply at a much higher level when you're talking about the organization of the entire like the whole business. So or franchise, whatever, the organization, like the way that it comes together. It applies there too. And those both Rule and Dannon, they're I think they think on a high level, and the main thing for me is that they communicate on a high level, and they try to be as transparent as they can. So it inspires feelings of confidence among their constituents because it looks like they've got it all under control. Now, do they really have it all under control? That's kind of hard to do when you don't really know what the rules are that you're playing by. But at least they that's what good leaders do. It appears that they very much know what they're doing, and they focus on the stuff that they have a direct hand in. And then when something changes at the level above them, at the NCAA level or the leadership level in college sports, then they will react to that. But yeah, I mean, for them to manage like just the roster situation for football, the way that they have with the changes that it's undergone just in the last 4 or 5 months is it's impressive.
That's our guy, Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Mitch, appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you again soon.
Drive safe, buddy.
Okay, thanks, guys.
That's Mitch Sherman from The Athletic.
I know it sounds like I'm just like fawning. I'm just telling you. We better appreciate it because it's really, really hard. We just read something completely different 36 hours earlier.
Yeah.
You got athletic directors and administrators and presidents that you can't agree on the fiscal calendar, but you still have to do business. Most of it, I mean.
And do business with each other.
We crumble.
And honestly, I mean, the roster limits thing is the best example of this. It changed 3 times in a 72-hour period. We think we're going to get through to we're going to have to be down to 105, and we're telling guys to leave if they, if they don't want to be left out in the cold, to, just kidding, you get grandfathered in. That all changed in a week.
Yeah.
3 different times. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. More Hurrdat Sports Live coming up next. I'm Ravi Lulla.
I'm Kenny Bell.
We're here from Hurrdat Sports. Don't worry, Metro Transit has you covered right here on the ballpark bus. Gonna run from right here down by the stadium, north of downtown, all the way up to Dodge Street, making a circle to drop you off wherever you need to go.
Oh, beautiful. So what's it cost?
It is free. It runs every 10 minutes, and it'll run almost all day until an hour after the last game. Or Kenny, if you're like me, you don't want to deal with driving downtown at all, Metro Transit has you covered there too. You can park out at West Roads for free and get a ride downtown through Orbit.
That's right. They added an extra Orbit stop at 10th and Capitol, only $1.25. Fills up after the game. Quick, nice service right back out to West Roads.
$2.50 round trip, can't beat it.
And free parking? You kidding me?
Plan your trip or track your bus at myride.ometro.com.
Or download the MyRide OMA app.
Centris Federal Credit Union, we understand that the journey of building your own business typically starts with modest beginnings. With a little help from our team of experts and small business loan offerings, you can take your vision and transform it into a more concrete reality. Centris Federal Credit Union. We are where you are.
What were the emotions for you watching that walk up by Eddie King Jr.?
Well, they were amazing. After getting the bunt down, I knew it was going to be a hard team to beat, especially with Monroe coming up, who's one of our best hitters, and then you got Eddie right behind him. That's a 1-2 punch that's really hard to beat.
How about the roller coaster of emotions throughout this game, especially in that ninth inning?
Yeah, definitely. It was a lot of roller coasters. I mean, we gave up a few runs, but we also got out of a huge momentum swing at top of the ninth with Tucker getting that strikeout, and so us getting back into it was huge.
You're a Louisville kid. How much more does this mean to you to rep the Cards?
I mean, there's a ton of pride. Both my parents went there, and so going up with the name on your chest of the city you grew up in is huge, and it's an honor I can't imagine.
Yeah, Jake Monroe told me the other day that you guys have been doing this all year in terms of comebacks. You can't count this team out. Why is this team clicking right now on all cylinders on offense and just staying so aggressive in the box?
Yeah, we're just a resilient bunch, and we got a good approach. Coach Snyder's helped us along the way, and so staying with our approach is a great thing, and keeping going and finding fastballs we can hit.
Give me that cheddar, bacon, Rico. Big money rolls like burritos. Give me that hot sauce, no pico. Give me that.
You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Live.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Live, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla, reminding you that getting an auto loan doesn't have to be stressful at Centris Federal Credit Union. Their team has consistently been voted Best of Omaha for auto financing, and they're here to help you get in a new ride. They'll help you navigate and find the right auto loan with competitive rates and pre-approvals, whether it's for your daily commuter or a weekend getaway. Centris is where you are with auto loans. Start your application today at centrisfcu.org, federally insured by NCUA. DB, I was scrolling the internet yesterday, as I tend to do.
Getting your surf game right?
Yeah, I'm not a big not a big water guy, but I'll get my internet surf game right. And I ran over Todd Furman from the Bet the Board podcast. He works with CBS Sports as well. And he went through, I don't know why he was doing this, if it's just a betting exercise he was going through or what, but I found it fascinating. He went through every Big Ten team and identified what their key game was over the course of their season. And I think he was doing it in light of their over-under totals. Like, if they were going to hit their total based on how their season was going to go, this game would be kind of the key indicator. And one of them that I found fascinating, actually two of them, and they go together, was Michigan and Nebraska. Obviously, I'm keyed in on Nebraska because, Nebraska. But Michigan's key game was also Nebraska, which I believe is the only two teams that were each other's key game, which I found fascinating.
Yeah.
Right? And so you're looking there and you go, like, for example, Wisconsin's key game is Iowa. Iowa's key game is Iowa State. Like, you don't have a lot of overlap in terms of both teams doubling up there. And so I look at, the other one was Oregon and Penn State, that they also had each other. What I thought was interesting about that for Nebraska and Michigan is seemingly, based on how the rest of this list would go, that means he thinks Michigan and Nebraska are about even. Like, that's kind of
I could see that.
And especially with the Oregon, Penn State being the other, because I think those are about even, right?
Fair.
And so I thought that was fascinating for a couple reasons. And that's through the lens of hearing a couple days ago that Michigan's brought in a transfer quarterback, right?
A 3-time.
Yeah, this is his fourth school.
Transfer quarterback.
Jake Garcia was a 5-star at one point. Hasn't been a 5-star in a minute. We'll put it that way. He is this will be his fourth school. Last year, most recently, he played at East Carolina, where he played 6 games, threw 180 passes, had 8 touchdowns, 12 picks. So that's who Michigan brought in. And it has to beg the question of, what does that mean about Bryce Underwood? Right? Like, if you're bringing in
on the heels of
at this
some
point,
questions about his commitment.
Yeah, about how it went down and everything like that. But you sit here.
Do you believe the fitness stuff?
I don't know. I don't know enough about Bryce Underwood as, like, in the minutia of it all, right? I believe that it got out that somebody thinks it's a problem.
Yeah.
Whether it is or not, I don't know, right? It's kind of like the stuff about Lulla that was coming out when Dallas traded him. It was like, he's fat, lazy, whatever. It's like, is he in the best shape he could be? No. Is he fat and lazy? Probably also not. So the truth is probably somewhere in the middle there. But if you're Michigan, I think a lot of people were counting on Underwood being that guy, and pretty much right away.
Yeah, well, he's kind of has been penciled in from the get-go.
As the starter, right? Like, we weren't even talking about anyone else. If you're sitting here in mid to late June and you're bringing in a guy as a transfer quarterback, there has to be some concern there if
this
you're
late.
Michigan. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, this late, yeah.
Like, this is post-spring. Like, this is about as late as you're going to bring somebody in. And if you're expecting Bryce Underwood to be that guy, I don't know why you make this move.
So and why would Garcia say yes?
If there wasn't a chance to play?
Yeah. Considering how many times he's been through this.
I agree. Because he's about at his last chance. I mean, I think he's got another year left after this. I'm not positive. But he's getting down to his last chance to be an effective college quarterback, which means he's getting down to his last chance to ever have a shot at the pros. Right? So if he doesn't think he's going to get a shot to play, why would he come here?
Right.
Like, that doesn't make a ton of sense to me. So I don't know, man. I think if I'm Michigan and I'm looking at, okay, week 3 Nebraska.
And realize when I said this is the perfect time to play them, this is probably back in whenever the schedules came out. I felt like it was just because Michigan wasn't going to be settled.
I didn't think it was be good yet.
Yeah, I just think he needed. I looked at it as Bryce would just need more time.
Yes.
I wasn't looking at it like
he may
not be the guy.
Yeah,
but I also wasn't thinking that about San either.
True. And we're sitting here and we're like, we don't know who Ohio State's starting quarterback is either.
And apparently Dante Moore,
who I've tried. Like, I haven't felt that good about Dante Moore.
He's gonna be right. I'm fascinated.
Like, we were making a lot of assumptions about Dante Moore.
Fascinated.
Like, there's a lot there. And so I sit here and I go, okay, if Nebraska and Michigan are each other's biggest games, I feel a lot better about Nebraska there if Michigan doesn't know who their quarterback is.
Because of what they're doing at the OCQB spot?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could convince me.
Especially we kind of forget.
You could convince me,
Sharon Moore's not going to be there.
Especially if Nebraska comes in undefeated.
Yeah, like Sharon Moore's not going to be there.
Yeah.
He's not going to be at this game. You've got, and he was like whatever the OC situation actually is. Like Sharon Moore was kind of that guy, right? So you sit here and you go, okay, you've got a new quarterback, and we don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
And it may not be the guy they wanted to be the quarterback, and they had to bring this guy in late who didn't get spring ball with any of his guys. And then you've got your head coach isn't there. Like, the more this starts to play out, I love that that's Nebraska's key game.
Yeah.
Because
I wonder what's going on with these quarterbacks, though.
In the Big Ten?
Yeah, although I told you I just finished that article on the Elite 11 write-up just because I wanted to see on the news of Tamala flipping yesterday just kind of how he did. And I sent him a congratulatory message. And I think playing quarterback is really, really difficult. And I think at some point here pretty soon, even though the Elite 11 has gone back and forth, and this isn't anything to disparage Elite 11 so much as there has to be some other things that go into quarterback play other than what we see in Elite 11 and 7-on-7.
Yeah.
Now, they're top guys. Some have panned out. I think they had a good run between 2019 and maybe currently. But they've
had some good runs before that.
You've had to kind of tweak the process, and even how we evaluate quarterbacks. Because I go back to what Coach Rule said after being wrong about Jeff Sims, and he said, you never know about a quarterback
until he gets out there.
And I don't know if they're tinkering with the process, or those that are good at pegging quarterbacks have kind of their formula for what they look for.
But it's just different.
But it's
when
different.
It's real.
I mean, I
I
think quarterbacks coming out of high school, there's zero guarantees. So many more aren't who we think they are during the recruiting cycle than are.
Oh yeah. I mean, is there any doubt in your mind? And if there is, please tell me that Jeff Sims has more physical tools to be a good quarterback than Heinrich Haarberg.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Heinrich Haarberg was clearly the better quarterback, though, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about here. Like, Jeff Sims had all the things you wanted a quarterback to have. Heinrich Haarberg was certainly missing some things. Heinrich Haarberg was a more effective quarterback. He was better in games. Like, I get that that's a thing that people that have issues with Rule go back to all the time, is the Jeff Sims eval, right? Let's not kid ourselves. A lot of people made that mistake with Jeff Sims because of his talent level. But a lot of people make that mistake with a lot of people, is my point. Julian Sayin was one of those dudes.
Oh, yeah.
It was between, I believe.
So were all the guys
didn't
we were
he
talking about.
decommit from Bama to end up at Ohio State?
Well, I don't know if it was Bama, but there was.
It was a major SEC school, and I can't remember which one. I think it was Bama, but I don't remember. I mean, look at Underwood now, who had this huge flip from LSU to Michigan, and how he got there, and the big NIL payday, and all that kind of stuff. And now all of a sudden you go, okay, I don't know if that guy is going to start. Like, part of me, I mean, the guy that they're bringing in, Jake Garcia, was a 5-star.
Even in the pro, like look at the pros.
Well, especially the pros. I mean, you can make an argument it's even worse than the pros.
You know who's going to be a great case study?
Who?
So is Bryce Young going to be good?
That's a fair question. I don't know.
I think all of a sudden he rewrote the written narrative on him.
Because year one, he was a bust.
He rewrote the written narrative on him.
Year one, he was a bust, and C.J. Stroud was awesome, and it was a huge mistake. Year two, we're like, oh, maybe Bryce Young's okay, and C.J. Stroud came back to the pack a little bit.
It's crazy.
And so I sit here and I go, okay, I think the more I look at what's happening with some of these guys, the more impressed I am with what Dylan did last year. Coming in with, I mean, Sayin's got a better supporting cast than Dylan did last year. And he actually had a year to sit as well and kind of digest and learn and get used to college. And we're still not sure he can win that job. You know, you could make an argument that Underwood has a better supporting cast this year at Michigan than Nebraska had last year with Raiola. And we're not sure if he can come and do it. And there's nobody else that Michigan wanted to start. At least Nebraska, I mean, Haarberg went 5-1 as a starter. Right? We kind of forget that in how it looked. Or 5-3. 5-3?
Well, he was 5-1 at one point, but yeah,
I think he ended up 5-3.
Yeah, he was the only.
He's the only quarterback with a winning record.
Yeah,
in like 6 years in Nebraska, right? Yeah. So
up until that point,
at that point, right? And so you sit there, I'm like, okay, Nebraska at least had a guy that they were sort of okay with and had
remember, and that was kind of Rule's thing when we thought he was messing with us about waiting to name a quarterback spot because he wanted to see the intent. He wanted to see some more intangibles.
Some things play out.
And he said, remember, he's still the only guy on our roster with a Big Ten win as a quarterback.
And let's not forget, if Chuba Purdy doesn't get hurt, he's got a decent shot at least being in that number 2 spot.
Yeah.
So you're sitting here and you go, okay. And that was prior to last year with Dylan and Chuba. But you sit here and you go, okay, I don't know what I have in Underwood. I don't know what I have in Saying. You don't see a lot of true freshman quarterbacks being successful. DJ Lagway didn't start right away as a true freshman. And you sit here and you go, okay, maybe we should be a little bit more.
And the free world passed up on Pavia, and all he's done is tear up the SEC.
Yeah. So, maybe we should sit here and be
regardless of what he said about Nebraska and Purdue. I didn't take offense to that. But.
Maybe we should be a little bit more appreciative of what Dylan has done, considering how hard all these other guys are proving that it is to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's certainly validity to it.
I don't know. It just encourages me a lot going into this next year about what I think Dylan can be. Because usually, and I'm not going to say always, but usually there's something there early enough to feel good about. And if Michigan's already kind of hitting panic button on this Underwood thing, I'd be scared if I'm a Michigan fan.
Right.
If saying after a year redshirting can't beat out Lincoln Kienholz for the starting job, I'm hitting a little bit of a panic button.
And I mean, I think you've seen it with DR too, though, right? Where he had the first third of the season, then the middle.
The middle was his sophomore slump.
Then kind of the
rejuvenated with
last part,
yeah,
where it's like, oh shoot. And the funny thing is he's had games that reflect how the season went too.
Yeah.
Right.
Within the game itself.
Within the game.
Yeah.
Like Wisconsin, right? Or something like that.
Yeah.
Where it is gonna be you just feel like you know more.
100%. And I know more about Dana Holgerson.
Yeah. Oh, okay, Mr. Cootie. Like
I know more about Dana.
Just banging that drum during Husker Sports Night. Like I said,
and you're
right.
not wrong.
She's right. Harrell and Whedon and Geno Smith, and I was like,
Ryan Day gave up.
I forgot about half those guys.
Ryan Day gave up play calling because he didn't feel like he could do both well anymore. And now Chip Kelly's gone, and you've got a guy in Brian Hartline that's never called plays before. Is it going to be Ryan Day? Is it going to be Brian Hartline? And you certainly don't know what you have at quarterback because they can't figure it out. And then you've got the whole situation at Michigan, kind of the same deal. You have a guy at quarterback.
I was shocked to see. I sent that to you guys?
The
group,
Garcia
right?
thing?
I was like,
yeah.
Why this late? And this is
you have real concerns.
This is his fourth school. Like, it has to be something.
You have to have real concerns about Underwood to bring someone in at this point. Like, imagine we're here at Nebraska last year. After spring practice, everything, we're like, oh, man, Dylan, that's the guy, whatever, we're feeling it. What if they'd brought someone in on June 15th at Nebraska last year who was a fourth-year guy?
We'd lose our minds.
We'd be like, oh, my God, what's wrong with Dylan? Right?
Yeah.
Like, we would lose it. That's what's happening at Michigan right now.
I'm surprised. So I like Furman's. I like the Iowa at Indiana because remember we called that a swing game.
Yeah, I think it is a swing game. And the other funny thing is a lot of these are road games.
And he's got Iowa and Wisconsin, the same as Brian Edwards. You brought a lot of that stuff at first blush. I said to B. Edwards, I'm like, how is Wisconsin in two of your swings? And we don't think Wisconsin's going to be very good. And he called them 50-50 games. Maybe we could all be missing something.
We could be, but so the reasoning that Furman gave on this Wisconsin-Iowa game, which is fascinating, is it's part of a stretch where they go like Iowa, Ohio State, at Oregon, and then there's another one in there. It is a brutal stretch for them. And Iowa's one of the games that feels more gettable within that stretch. So I think for him, if they're going to hit their over a 5.5, that they have to get that Iowa game because they go through a really rough stretch.
Makes sense.
And
do you think most people realize that what an upgrade it was with Gronowski and Brewster together?
Oh, no, probably not.
It was Gronowski that Adam said he would be interested to see
Kotelnicki. Yeah, because he's got a little more of the
and I said no, that makes absolute sense.
Even if you think Aller's a better quarterback, which the free world, I think, thinks Aller's a better quarterback. That's not a hot take. Than Gronowski. Might be a better fit stylistically with some other guys. I do find that whole thing fascinating. Let's get to Michigan Lance here.
Speaking of Underwood.
I know. Yeah, I don't know if he wants to talk about it or if he wants to talk about something else. But
we may want to talk about DJ Lagway again.
Let's get to our guy, Michigan Lance, here on the line. Lance, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, man, DJ Lagway, yeah. Hey, man, why don't you like him, DB?
No, it's not that I dislike him. That's that. And I don't even think Ravi dislikes him. I don't. The only reason he continually came up is because the assumption is he's going to make these huge leaps based on what we saw last year playing the game. And statistically, he's right on par with where Dylan was, and Dylan has the more proven OC. So why can't Dylan get the same benefit of the doubt of trajectory as opposed to DJ Lagway? That's where the whole Lagway thing came up for. And but you did bring it up for like weeks.
I do. Because I think it's such an aggressive projection too. It's not even just that Dylan doesn't get the benefit of the doubt and DJ Lagway does. It's a lot of these people have him as like a top 2 or 3 quarterback in the country. Yeah. And that's a crazy assumption to make to me at this point.
Well, I think it's let's look at it from another side then. Who is his competition? I think that's more
Aller, Klubnik, Nussmeier.
The competition is.
Yeah.
What's that?
Aller, Klubnik, and Nussmeier, to me, I think are the 3 best quarterbacks in college football this upcoming year. Like, I don't think, and I've seen lists that have like national respected guys lists that have Lagway ahead of multiple of those guys. That to me, where I was like, okay, you've got huge track record with all 3 of those guys, proven success, proven situations. I don't know how you can start jumping Lagway over some guys like that. So like if you're talking about top 3, which is what I was talking about, like those are the 3 no-brainers for me. And I don't think you're going to have a hard time convincing, not you personally, but anybody's going to have a hard time convincing me that Lagway has the justification before we've seen a snap in his sophomore year to jump any of those 3 guys.
For you, Lance, what do you think the difference is going to be between like an Iowa and a Michigan? I mean, at this point, you got to think Iowa's the more proven commodity. Or no? You're banking on the fact Michigan has more talent. I mean, they got gutted last year.
Hey, what was Iowa's record last year? Let's start there.
8-4.
8-4.
Yeah, they might be due for a 500.
It doesn't happen to them, though.
Yes, it does. They go a couple years, 8, 9, maybe a 10. They'll go down to like 6-6 one year.
Well, it's been a minute, and I want to say since is it? I'm guessing maybe 12. That was the good year.
They haven't gone.
When's the last time they only won 6 games?
Last time they won 7 was 2014.
Hey, do I know what I'm doing?
Wow.
2012 was the year they went 4-8.
Do I know what I'm talking about?
I
said 2014.
Okay, yeah, you do. Hey, well, hold on a second. So
finally got something right in the last.
Who's gonna get? Who's gonna get the 10 wins first? Michigan or Iowa next year?
If programs, if they're playing to potential, sure. I mean, Michigan would be the easy say, but I mean, even when I talk to you, and even you aren't like gun ho, like you're still, and you've won a national championship, and you're still kind of like,
no. Yeah, well, like I think this year, our schedule will probably be comparable, comparable to Iowa. We'll win between 8 and 9 games minimum, and I think that with the potential to get to 10, and if we get to 10. We're definitely going to be in the, in the playoffs.
I know one thing. If you lose to Oklahoma and Nebraska in your first 4, all bets are off.
Most definitely.
And would that be a reach? Would that be a reach if that happened?
And there's some tough road games too. Like there's some tough road games.
I believe in Nebraska being tougher.
Than going to Norman.
More of a scary opponent than Oklahoma. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sold on Venable.
A lot of people have him on the hot seat.
Yeah, man. Like, Oklahoma looks. Hey, man. Oklahoma and the SEC. Hey, man. I think Oklahoma is the odd man out moving to the SEC. That's funny. I was talking to this about.
Everybody thought it was going to be Texas too.
Yeah, Oklahoma, man. There's not a lot of resources over there. they might want to go back to the Big 12. Like, hey, the SEC, man, this money thing, y'all talked about it. Like, the SEC's in trouble, man. They do not have the dollars to compete up north. Yeah. Like, they just don't. And so that downward arrow, like, Texas is fine. We know what Texas got. A&M, like, we know the money they have. Mm-hmm. But them other schools, they're not comparable. And so Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, like, I don't know if they're, and I don't know, I have to look at their numbers, but I don't know if I know they're not Texas, Ohio State, and like there's levels.
Yeah, even within the hierarchy. Because I think LSU, even LSU is saying we're not Bama. And Bama's probably like, well, we can't really do right now what A&M and Texas can.
And where do you put Georgia?
Yeah.
But who can? Like, I don't know about Georgia, but you know who can? Oregon, Michigan, Ohio State, Nebraska. I don't know. Is Nebraska right below the top tier, but above the LSU? I don't know. I think Nebraska got a lot of money. Am I wrong?
Well, fiscally, they talk out loud about being in good financial shape.
Like, resources-wise, Nebraska's playing in the deep end of the pool with the big boys. Like, that's just
they're just tighter spenders, which is, I mean, that's just the area.
Yeah, that's just the people.
But that's not to say, listen, I'm not trying to pump NIL because, I mean, give all the money we can to 1890. Like, hear my heart. Like, I want.
No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Hey.
I believe Nebraska can play with the big boys.
But like
money-wise.
Nebraska, and I'm not trying to take a shot at you here, Michigan Lance, but like Nebraska probably isn't going to do a Bryce Underwood thing the way Michigan did in terms of how that recruitment played out, right? Like they're probably going to do a little like the Bryce Underwood thing felt a lot like a pure NIL decision from his standpoint. Nebraska's
and
probably,
it was late in the process, which is why you're bringing in a 3-time transfer in June.
Like Nebraska can have the same resources and choose not to play things the same way. You know what I mean?
No, right? Yeah, no, I understand that completely. I just don't want to get but don't tell me that they can't do that.
Oh, for sure, they could if they wanted to.
And don't let them tell you they can't do that.
I'd probably be more likely to tell you Nebraska can't than Ravi. Ravi thinks Nebraska's capable of just about anything they say.
I do, yes.
Ravi, I'm on your side, Ravi. I think they can spend.
Yeah, I
think
do.
They got the dollars. Hey, this is how you know people are rich. They don't spend.
They're going to be responsible.
Rich people.
They're going to be responsible, but they've got the money.
Rich people act like they're broke, and broke people act like they're rich. So that should tell you right there.
All right, man. We got a couple minutes. What was on your mind about that? Was actually pretty good. We got a couple minutes. What's on your mind with 7-on-7?
Yeah, I'm tired of coming to 7-on-7 and you're grumpy. I'm trying to see my friends, and at the end of 7-on-7, you're always mad. I don't like that. So hey, you said you were gonna make me and my son a meal. And so I expect that while we're here so I can have a good time with one of my best friends.
He said listen, man.
Grumpy.
Yeah, I'm definitely off. I'll give it to you. I felt horrible.
My son was like, Dad, now don't be going up here fighting when you get. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, Damon last year. I said, oh my God. I said, yeah, man.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, but hey, Breeze. I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm going to give you advice anyway. It's so funny. Him and Langston are so alike. And so when I'm watching him play, I know he's going to be the majority of varsity he'll play this year DB, right? Probably only DB.
Yeah.
He won't play any like receiver or anything. So my advice to you is have him play the 2 quarters of JV for reps. He needs reps.
But if he starts, I just don't think we can. But you're all right. I mean, you're all right. I mean, he's going from saying freshman to, I mean, the Darian Jones of the world. So, I mean, and you saw Lakeview. I mean, they know what the heck they're doing.
Right. So I said, well, hold on. You're the parent, and bonus, you're the coach. So you can have him play 2 quarters. That's it. See, people get caught up in, well, I have to have them on this night. Well, are they going to be at their best?
Listen, I'm just talking about simple rigor versus quality reps. They're not the same. Rigor versus seeing quality reps.
Right. So, but the rigor of playing corner
I get
is
it. Yeah.
not the same rigor as playing D-line, O-line, varsity.
Yeah.
Like,
that's fair.
How many balls are you going to see out there?
That's fair.
Like, that's what I'm saying. People don't understand that about corner. You're going to fall asleep before you're just alert out there. You're not in every action. You're out there on that island, man, and it gets sleepy out there.
Yeah.
And so that's the only. Like, if he was a linebacker or O lineman, hey, go. I understand that part. But when it comes to corner, it's a different deal, man. You'll be out there more often not in action than you will be in action, and getting some JV reps where you just need more action. You need more reps, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going to help him be better sooner than later.
Yeah.
And I ain't saying you got to do it all season. You know what I mean? But just he needs reps, and I know what I saw because it was no different than my son. He's not bad. He's good. He's going to be good. But like you said, for him to be a more impactful player sooner on that varsity level, those JV reps are going to come in handy, man.
Yeah.
Whenever they'll come in handy.
Whenever our opener is on Friday against North, that's the timeline. You're right. Absolutely right.
Appreciate the call, buddy. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Lance.
That's our guy, Michigan Lance. That's the show for today. That's CB. I'm Ravi Lulla.
He said grumpy.
He said grumpy. Trying to hang out with my friend, and you're grumpy.
Oh, man.
You'll see me and Grumpy DB tomorrow. We'll be back. Hurrdat Sports Live.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.